What's up, folks? Welcome back to the show. Welcome to 2023. Excited for all the new things we got coming out for y'all this year. But first, the last episode of the year. We put all the big hitters together. We had a great time in the studio. We got Tony Cowden, Dane, Britt, Chris Blanchard, myself and Steve as always hosting. It was a pleasure. We had a ball. We talked all over the spectrum of things. Great conversations from politics to our own goals for 2023. We had a blast. If this is your first time listening to the show, please like and subscribe on all the podcast platforms, as well as hunt us down on social media. Hit a like and subscribe. Share it with all your friends. We really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for all your support thus far. God bless. I guess the inception of this show, me and Steve were on the way back. We went up to the western part of the state and did a podcast with some of our fellow comrades up there, I guess you could say. High-vis LEDs, they do all the lights in the fire trucks, all the blinky things. Super cool company.
We're going to start explaining everything about fire trucks really
yes,
well.
Please.
The easy way. We're going to the easy way. We're going to give it to you
Break
straight.
it down for me.
Yeah. So they do a show to kind of promote their business side of things. They just talk to entrepreneurs and all that kind of stuff. Why they want to talk to us, I'm not really sure, but they did. So we went there and talked on the way back. We got to talking about our New Year's show because we normally do a big New Year's thing. We'll have, guests come down. We'll just open the doors up and people can come down from the street or whatever. And we'll just sit around a table and chit-chat and talk. And the last time it was fun. I mean, we had a good time.
Yeah.
And this year we want to do it a little bit different. And I was like, bro, let's take all the heavy hitters that we've had on the show, the most viewed episodes, and let's put them all in the same room.
Cool.
I was like, we had Chris has been on several times, and he's talked about both of y'all. Dane seems awesome. Tony seems really cool. It was back when you were running for Congress and everything. He was like, I can kind of get on board with what he's got going on. So
I checked your box, by the way, just so you know.
I
did.
So it was just back and forth, and we were like, well, chat, I'll send a text, and let's try to get them all down here.
Excellent.
So it was
It just doesn't seem worth it though. Like
it's not, bro.
this fight doesn't seem like you still have a lot of years. I don't know how your body is doing, but like no seriously. No, right? Yeah. So you have however many more years that you have to have like fun. Right? So yeah. I don't know, like when I look at your fight right now that you're in, and it's the same thing with all of us. Like I know he had a motorcycle at some point, right? I don't know if he still rides or not. Yeah, still got one. I know you've been into dirt bikes before. Like whenever I see guys, so, and I know that you've also shared the injury. Like I think you broke a femur. I broke the ball off of my femur, right? So like these things linger, and they don't get better necessarily. Like we stay strong or as strong as we need to be for whatever we're doing. But all of us, like I don't. Do you still ride? Are you riding much lately?
No, I like to look at it.
That's cool. That's good.
Well, ironically, you bring it up, just yesterday, I made a post with a list of all my major injuries, my major ones, right? The ones that put me in the hospital and or needed surgery. And it's a long list. And a couple of them should have been career ending. And I was like, all right, challenge accepted. Doc, you're not going to walk again? I broke my back, man. I wasn't supposed to walk again. When I got blown up in 2009, I had to learn to walk and talk again, 7 days in a coma. So now I'm like, you know what? I'm not hopeful because, like my buddy Johnny Primo says, hope is not a course of action. Right? I just don't have a lot of confidence that our country is going to improve because the average American won't get up their asses. So until that happens, I'm going to start. Since then, man, I have done things finally to seek some treatment for my TBI. I have a pretty substantial TBI, headache since 2009, just name it, man. All the things that go into that I've just tried to cover up with staying fit and working out. So I've actually tried to do a couple things since then to make me better. I'm trying to do things to shore up my relationship with Melissa so it can continue to last for more decades because we just rounded, last year, a decade. And I know because people say, but Tony, we need guys like you. And I'm like, we need folks like you.
Yeah.
We need all of you to support the good guys. And it's just not happening. And so until then, I'm going to look out for me. I'm going to try and stay in good enough shape. 2 years ago, I was like, I'm getting another dirt bike. So I was supposed to be buying a freezer to put some elk meat in. I came to Wilmington. I got home. And it was funny because I was trying to beat Melissa home because I had this freezer and this KX 450 that I picked up while I was in town.
I recall this.
Yeah. And it just took a little longer to get the bike prepped and put on the trailer. And I pulled in the driveway, opened the truck, went in the house, take a piss or whatever. And when I came outside, Melissa had parked. And she walked right past me without making eye contact. I was like, "Hey, baby, I got us a freezer." And she went right on in the house. Not a word, right? And I was like, "Damn it."
I want to back up real quick.
Yeah.
I want to back up real quick because I want to challenge your outlook just for the hope of healthy debate, productive debate.
Give it to me.
The outlook of, you asked Tony if he was going to run again, and you asked him if he thought it was worth it. Is that not kind of the attitude that's landed us in the situation now with the voting numbers and stuff like that? The average American, the average people, which I don't think of us, myself, more or less, as anything other than average. Is that not kind of the mentality that we need to change?
Certainly.
And everybody else needs to change. It doesn't matter if it's worth it or not. We have to try because it's not going to be worth it until we make an effort to make it be worth it.
Yeah. And I feel like my timing was off, right? I made that effort. I made that try. It took a lot out of me and mine. Right. And I'm very protective of Melissa. Right. And so, yeah, it does take, it's going to take all of us being willing to run for Congress. That type of, and people are like, well, politics ain't for me, man. I'm not into politics. Well, neither was I, man. And, they used that against me. Like, hey, look, you didn't even vote in this election or that election. I'm like, yeah, the whole one, Trump, Clinton. I was in Syria. During that election. And they were like, why didn't you use a mail-in ballot?
Oh dear.
And I was like,
because it would be wrong.
Because you know how many U.S. postal offices there are in Syria? I mean, I could have driven across Syria into Iraq and to Baghdad and dropped off my ballot. But I didn't get a ballot because sometimes I get that phone call and the next day I'm on a flight. So, and I don't know when I'm coming home. And, it's just the nature of our work. And it was just like, it was so frustrating, that everything about my service is what they tried to use against me. And it was just like, all right, you guys got to be kidding me. But yeah, absolutely. You are absolutely right. And it is frustrating to tell people when they say, but Tony, we need guys like you. And I'm like, yeah. Again, we need everyone to get involved. And until that happens, we're going to stay on this trajectory, which is we've reached that max forward part, the highest part of the trajectory, and we are definitely on that downward part of the trajectory in our country's history.
I think. I'm sorry.
And it's sad.
I think I'm a little bit biased because maybe I'm selfish because I've gained so much from our interactions, and it's not like he and I aren't buddies. We're totally different people, but we both have a passion for, number one, teaching people things, right? Like making people grow or like seeing people grow. And he's really good at explaining. I'm not a very good shooter. I'm a good explainer. Does that make sense? So the little bit of time that we've worked together, he's known how to explain things to me, right? Where like it clicks, and I've then become a better shooter, and I can pass that along to people. Whenever I see him doing this journey that he's doing with politics and hanging out with these fucking slime balls, right? Like, I feel like in my heart, it's a waste of someone who can touch lives just like mine. Because I see all the guys that go to his range. I've been to his range many times. All those guys really look up to Mr. Cowden. So whenever he's out doing these circles with these fuck faces that he's having to deal with in political land, which I don't pay no attention to these people anyways, because they serve themselves and it's a money game. Yep. When he tries to get into that game, I feel like he's being taken away from his passion. He's being taken away from what I feel like he should be doing for people that are like me that do want to. Yeah. He's never once batted an eye if I've said, Mr. C, I want to work on night vision shooting. Fuck yeah, let's put together a night vision set. Mr. C, I want to work on long range. Let's go to the long range. Mr. C, I want to work on combat carbine, combat pistol. Not only do I want to come to your combat carbine class, I want to bring 4 different carbines because I just want to know how these things work. Fuck yeah, bro, let's do it.
Hey, one of them is like a mirror chromed carbine? And I was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I just I just want to shoot this for Instagram. So yes, bring all 4 of them. You know,
this is where this is where I feel like he is almost being, I don't want to say wasted, but like I feel like I selfishly feel like he should be touching lives and
you're not the only person that said that. You know, Melissa being my closest, you know, friend, ally. Yeah, I've kind of always been that way. When I owned the gym here in Wilmington, man, I would, you know, I do like helping people. I really enjoy helping people accomplish cool things. Grow. But even if it's, you know, man, this older fella in, you know, the feed store today was having a hard time loading a, you know, 60-pound bag of, you know, equine feed into his cart. Man, I ran over there to help him. Man, I am that guy. If you were pulled off the side of the road, I'm the guy that's going to stop. I don't care what the weather is, where I'm going, what I'm dressed in. I will help you. I just was raised that way. It's just part of me. I like helping people.
Chris, you don't know nothing about that, do you?
Well, helping people.
Yeah.
Helping
you know? And so because of all of this, me and Melissa both kind of decided, and I don't make any major decisions without her input. She is definitely smarter than I am. And don't tell her I said that.
She's listening.
Never hear it.
The funny thing is, I don't think Melissa's ever listened to any podcast.
She will this one.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's hilarious. Freaking,
Dude, I'll
you know?
put it on a CD and take it to her.
That's
personally.
right.
Yeah.
Her office is in my district.
I mean,
so I will hand deliver it.
There's plenty of times where Melissa's just like, please, could you stop talking? So she's probably not going to want to listen to a podcast where I talk.
I guess I guess I could see that.
But yeah, man, you know, we decided that, hey, you know, I have a decent reach on social media. That, you know, heck, maybe if I shift focus and, you know, not just the shooting stuff, but develop the message a little bit better about talking to young males. And I always say male because there's so many young males that aren't men, but they want to be, they have the potential, right? So let's focus on them. So maybe after I'm dead and gone, they raise some more men. And when it really comes down to it, they will save what America was supposed to be.
That's correct.
Right? Because we are not, right? America right now is not what it was supposed to be. It's not, you know? I mean, our Constitution is stomped on every day, you know, by people, Republicans, right? I've said this throughout my campaign. I was like, I'm not mad at Democrats. They don't upset me one bit. I don't get upset with liberals and none of their crazy stuff ever. It is the Republicans that sold us out and compromised our rights away to the liberals, right?
Right.
You got McConnell right now, freaking, that dude, he sold us out time and time again. And, you know, they just want to keep shipping money to Ukraine. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So maybe instead of running again, you could spend that time, this is a lack of better words, growing your brand. So if you teach people to do that, then you're really probably doing better than you would if you were
force multiplier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
To use a
if you were
SF term. Yeah. And so if maybe some of what I am doing to reach out to some of these young guys, you know, maybe it will inspire them to run.
That's exactly what I meant.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that is a force multiplier. And it needs to go all the way to, like, you know, local levels, your city council, your county commissioners, sheriffs. Oh, don't get me started on the sheriffs.
Don't do it. Don't
you know
do
what
it.
I mean? Good God. Right. Yeah. I mean, put this in perspective, right? Every single sheriff in Eastern North Carolina endorsed Greg Murphy, the doctor. I mean, if you ever seen the guy, right? Like, he's clearly not a man's man, right? Not a law enforcement type guy. Like, you all know a lot of police officers, right?
Sure.
How many of them, if you asked him, you said, hey, would you rather vote for Congress, this Green Beret dude, you know, describe me in my resume, or this spineless little doctor guy, right? How many cops do you know would be like, oh, the doctor, right? Nope, not a single sheriff in Eastern North Carolina would even talk to me because Greg Murphy threatened to take their federal funding. Right? That's your sheriffs. You know, they are elected officials. And that's a good thing in most parts, but they're politicians.
So
sheriffs.
At what point do you kind of take a step back and say, and I'm obviously, this is a legitimate question, instead of trying to fight that fight on that upper level and like stepping into their ring where it's so slimy, wouldn't you say that you're being on the bottom level and like changing lives the way that you're doing it, on the range or whatever it is that you're doing, could almost be like if you're trying to go for the greater good of the world, right? Yeah. Changing those lives on it's like with the firefighters, like it's the same thing. Like these guys don't try to go to the top, and talk to would it be a chief or something like that, or like they're not trying to talk to the chief and say, you know what, chief, we should do that. They're on the ground floor. They're like helping people. They're out in the community. They're doing what they're trained to do and trying to make it.
It's sad, man. Whether it's the military or fire, or police, right? By the time a lady or a gentleman becomes upper echelon leadership, they're all politicians.
That's true.
Right?
That's absolutely.
Let's face it. Maybe it's battalion chief. I don't know. At some level, right? I'm guessing. In fire, it's the same way. Yeah. Once an officer in the military is a colonel, he's a politician, man. And it's, but yeah, to answer your question, one of the first things I came up with this year was like, hey, I'm going to put it out on the internet that any veteran that wants to go elk hunting with me in the mountains of Idaho this year, get a tag and I will take you hunting.
Oof.
Right? Get a tag and I'll take you hunting. I don't care if you've never been hunting ever before in your life. I will take you hunting elk in Idaho. And yeah, we got 9 guys going, man.
Mr. B, it's Blanchard, correct?
Yeah.
With how much do you work out right now?
None.
Okay, good. No, that's what I want.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah,
no,
every day.
So if he offered to take you elk hunting, like that still sounds like a lot of fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, physically,
yes.
Do you think you could pull it off?
Yes.
You seriously think so?
Absolutely.
Do you think he could? Because you were just talking before we started. You were. He's like, fine. I don't know.
So,
dude, I question how many people out there would be able to.
I made it very clear. I try to make it very clear that, hey, look, I backcountry hunt. I backpack hunt. In most places, most of the time, the type of hunting I'm doing, folks will have a mule or two or llamas.
In America?
Stuff. Yeah. 2 years ago, myself, my buddy Drew, and Josh Andrews, who is now a hero, right? He's a new hero, but he's a firefighter, so he is now a hero. So from Backwater Guns, Josh, right?
Got it.
And I got to give it to Josh, man. Josh, man, he worked out, trained up for this thing, and we saw some elk, and we kind of come in from the north to the south. We saw them a couple of miles away, right? I mean, that's what you're spotting. I always tell people a spotting scope is to see into the future, because what you're looking for is the elk or the animals you're going to hunt the next day or possibly even the next, right? You might see them 5 miles away. Well, 5 miles in the backcountry could be 2 to 3 days, right?
That's crazy.
So we packed up our stuff and went back to the truck, which was an all-day hike. And that night we drove down south and around this area. We're talking about, 50 miles back roads, mountain roads, parked the trucks, and up early the next morning and hiked in 9 miles. And when we got to this part where we had to start hiking up, there was a camp. And like I said, they had a couple horses that they rode in and a couple mules that they carried all their stuff in. And this is they were hunting for 4 days. Right? We're out there for a week out of our backpacks. And they were like, what the? Y'all walked into here? Like, are you nuts? Like, what are you doing? We're like, yeah. And they're like, if you shoot an elk, how are you getting it out? We're like,
on my back, dog.
We're going to make one trip with 100 pounds each for the next couple of days, Yeah, we understand what we're doing. And yeah, man, it's some pretty tough hunting. And I got to give it to Josh, man. Josh is a big boy anyway, and he tore his VMO, the teardrop part of your quad. Oh. And, man, he hiked his way out of there, dude. And it was funny because he couldn't hike up the mountain, so we put him in a spot where he could overwatch just one little pass, and me and Drew went up on the mountain. And the folks with the horses were packing up leave and actually offered him a ride out. And I was like, dude, I'd have took it. And he hiked out with us, man. God bless his heart.
Let me go.
It's tough. Last year I had 3 guys that were hunted a whopping 2 days. One of them hiked around with me and my girlfriend, and got back to camp. And, man, they packed up and drove home. And it's not cheap, man. These are guys who had never been before, so they shelled out for the tag. You're talking $750 for a license and a tag in Idaho. You know, they all bought guns and gear and cold weather gear. You're talking about people that live at the beach, man. They don't have, you know, cold weather gear. So shelling out, you know, $2,000-3,000 to go on this hunt. And after 2 days in the mountains, man, they got in their truck and drove back to North Carolina. And I was pissed because I never drive. I go light. I take a flight out there. I rent a car. I'm light, man. But they wanted to freaking drive out there.
Yeah.
And I was all pissed because I was like, are y'all kidding me? Freaking, you know, like now I got to drive home. Like this is dumb. But it's tough and it's cold. You know, it was funny that the first night we were on the mountain, man, we got our little tarp set up, right? I don't even carry a tent. And this hail, sleet, lightning storm rolled on top of us. And you know, it's like lightning thunder, you know, no time between the two. It's right on top of us. And got to give it to her, man. She was like, are we good? She's like, is this safe? I was like,
no.
Safe as it can be, right? Like safe as it can be.
Let's be
I don't
honest.
worry about lightning, right? I look at it like this, man. If you get struck by lightning, I mean, that's God's sniper rifle, right? When you get hit with lightning, God himself zapped your ass, right? Hey, man, you clearly overstepped some boundaries. So I don't worry about lightning, right? Like to me, there's some things I just don't worry about, and lightning is one of them. So she was like, all right, cool. Zipped up her sleeping bag, went to sleep. And so yeah, man, it's tough hunting. Now I'll tell you this, right? We also hunt in Montana, and it's backcountry, but it's lower, more rolling hills and stuff. And you know, it's only a 20-minute drive to town. So this last time we were hunting in Montana, me and Melissa got, you know, stayed in a hotel every night. So I'm not always looking to suffer. You know, it's just when you hunt in Colorado and Idaho, you're hunting public land. So that's all there is. Only real opportunity for us out here. And yeah, man, it's tough. It's rough. You know?
Dane, let me preface your question with yes, but not without preparing.
Yeah.
How about it? Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. For anything you do,
Would you prepare with,
for
you
sure.
mean prepare with like exercise or prepare with like buying gear? What do you mean?
No,
Like,
not
what
gear.
would
I
be
think
your-
I'd had that covered, but the
Yeah.
exercise part for a while before we went, yeah.
You know,
I think you'd be
totally
surprised. Though. I mean, Tony, I'm sure you can understand this, Dane, a little less. But the more you live out in the sticks like you are now, you'll start to understand the difference in weight strong and farm strong.
that's right.
There is a difference. And I mean, Chris is picking up brake drums off of trucks and all. It's just a different kind of strength.
Yeah.
No, strength. Everyone at this table is stronger than me. I'm talking about endurance. Like that would be where it would like what he's talking about, multiple days of hiking,
Like I said,
things
you
like
know,
that.
I do one, you know, freeze dried meal and a couple protein bars a day, where like Melissa will do 2 and 3. She's willing to carry more weight, where I'm like, you know, that old carry light, freeze at night type of thing.
That'd be my problem is the food part.
Yeah.
That'd be my issue.
Yeah.
I'd have a backpack full of Krispy Kremes, man.
My man.
Them
Yes.
damn keto energy rings. I'd be all about that. I mean,
And you know, that was the thing, right? Like the guys looked at me like I was insane when I said, and I was serious, I was like, if you told me that I could have a guaranteed elk on the ground and all I would have to do was go without food or water for 4 days, deal. I'd shake your hand on that in a second. That's easy. Guarantee me an elk, because man, I've got more elk trips with no elk than I do elk trips with elk on the dirt.
Guarantee me a Britt's donut on the ground.
Right? You know, and it is, you know, I do, you know, we don't eat store-bought meat, man. Freaking, you know, we got right now 4 freezers full of meat. Freaking, whether it's, you know, and even before I, you know, was really into hunting out west, I've always, you know, shot deer in North Carolina and eat deer. That was when I was little. I didn't have a whole lot of money, so, you know,
that's my goal is to get Steve. I want to get Steve. He played with a bow. I'm strictly archery. I hadn't killed an animal with a gun since, man, I don't know, maybe senior year of high school. I had like 4 or 5 good years where as soon as I turned 16 and I could drive myself to the woods, I was every single day.
Yeah.
That's where I was.
Yeah.
And I had like 4 years, you know, sitting in Porta John stands over potatoes.
Yeah.
And, you know,
absolutely.
boat shoes, Carhartt jacket, and some shorts. Chilling up there playing on my phone.
Yep.
And, you know, 30 minutes before dark, deer comes out, bam.
Yeah.
I had like 4 years where I killed I had awesome opportunities. So I killed the 4 biggest deer that I've ever killed in my entire life in those 4 years with a gun, and it lasted 3 minutes. And after the last one, skinned it out, got on the drive back to the house, I was like, man, there's got to be more to it than this. Got to be more to it than this.
And, so
that's
clearly,
when I picked up bow hunting. My granddad was a bow hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up, bow hunting hot and heavy, and I hadn't done that since. And I know Steve has played with the bow some, so I want to get him on an elk.
Man, so this year, going out west, so here I only hunt with a bow.
Sure.
Just like you said, climb in the stand, over a feeder, all you have to do is be quiet. And then in that moment, don't spook them when you're drawing. Right. And then you got a pretty good, as long as you can loose that arrow and hit what you're aiming at, you're going to get a deer, right? That's Eastern hunting. Out there, it's really difficult to pick up here and go out there and bow hunt. So I have opted over the years to choose late season rifle hunting. I'm really excited this year. I am bow hunting in Montana.
Whoa.
And I am stoked. It also, my bow is a 2005 Matthew Switchback model.
Right. That's what my dad shoots.
Right? Number one selling bow of all time.
Yeah.
Every year I say I'm going to get a new bow. Every year. And then I pull that bow out.
And it works.
All the way to that 5th pin at 100 yards, man. I hit the targets. It just never done me wrong. I upgraded arrows 3 or 4 years ago to these new slimline little badass arrows.
5mm
FMJs. Yeah. So
500 plus grains.
This year, because I am going elk hunting and doing it archery in Montana, I'm getting a new bow. I'm not sure yet because I know Hoyt and Matthews both have this new latest and greatest badass bow they just released.
They're all the same for the past 5 years.
That's right. So I'm just going to sit back and probably March I'll make that decision on which one I get. I'm like, all right, cool. So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. And when you get, everybody talks about archery with elk, man, because when they're in a rut, you call them and things just come crashing through. You've seen the videos where these monsters are just crashing through and they'll run right up to you, like in some cases so close that you don't have room to loose an arrow. When you got a 800,000 pound pissed off, ready to fight bull, that close to you, I'm stoked. I'm looking forward to it.
Have a ball for sure.
So I've been, before I forget this again, because I knew I was going to forget. I don't want to forget it again. You were talking on, I believe it was the first podcast that you did on here. You were talking about electronics on the fire trucks and like how electronics, and this kind of segues into obviously everything with our society now. Like as everything gets more complex, it gets harder to work on. Same thing with guns and stuff. Like they're constantly coming out with some new, one of the best things I've ever heard him say was the gun industry is constantly coming up with solutions to problems that don't exist. Right? Like this is the best thing I've ever heard.
That's
I try
America.
to tell everyone that's exactly right. So I am big into electric stuff. I love the electric cars and these sort. I still have a Hemi Challenger, but like I love the new technology. So if they, with all these things that are going electric on these fire trucks, have they started, or is there talk about? Because such a fire truck doesn't have to go very far, right? It goes to the thing and comes back, and it can be plugged in the whole time. Is there talk about electric with any of the fire trucks? And it
already have them.
You already have them.
Yeah.
Whoa. Is it more efficient or less efficient, or more of a pain, less of a pain?
I can't really tell you because there's not any around here that
you haven't worked on them yet.
No, but
who's making them?
So Pierce has one and E1 has one.
Do you dread that transition?
Yes.
Do you really?
I think electrics. I've never been opposed to electric vehicles.
Right.
I mean, whatever. I don't care. I drove a Tesla. I think they're pretty badass. I know you think you just got another one new one.
Yeah, I've had 5. Yeah,
Right.
I love them. Melissa has one as
Yeah,
well. She's
okay,
spent a lot of miles on her. So I
But-
know it.
But never have I been, this is the way to go or not the way to go.
Right.
Whatever you want. I'm trying to talk my wife now into getting one, soon.
Cool.
But I think they have their place.
Yeah, I agree.
If you are a constant long range commuter,
Right.
like long range meaning, you drive to 2 other states away,
Right.
might not be your thing.
But
But
stop too much.
right.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a place in the fire industry.
Okay. Yeah.
I just don't. There's too many variables. Of
He's
things
shaking
that
his
can
head
go
as
wrong.
well. Yeah, he's saying this is probably not the way.
Well, aren't like most of the pumps and everything, aren't they ran off the
Transmission.
right, the engine's power?
Yeah.
So diesel, right?
Yeah.
So,
So you have to remember
how would
that these trucks still have a diesel engine.
right.
So it's pretty impossible for them to lose power because when the battery dies, the engine works.
Right.
The engine drives the pump, not the electric part drives the
Right.
pump. But we talked about this then too. Electricity's worst enemy is water.
Right.
So
Yeah. Of
why would
course.
you
And
put-
vibration. I think
Yeah.
Steve said vibration as
Yeah.
well.
So why would you do that?
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think you should put a lot more into something. And I didn't do the research that they did, so I'm not talking bad about what they've done, but it's a very short-lived. To me, your car is not a life-saving device.
Right.
You know, if you go outside and your car doesn't start, but your car doesn't move, who gives a shit? You can find some help to get to work.
True.
If his truck doesn't crank up, that's pretty bad for not just him, for whoever he's going to. So,
So you don't trust the electric motors?
Not
You don't trust
fully.
the batteries? Okay.
not I mean, do I think that they'll work? Yes, but his truck could not work in a diesel truck. But water doesn't hurt what he has, and so I don't know. I don't think there's enough. Thought process behind it yet,
Right.
or proving grounds to see how they're going to do it. Of course, you know what? You have to have somebody has to have one for there to be proving grounds for that to happen.
Got to be tested, right?
Yeah,
can't
you're
just
not gonna
field that.
No, you're not
right?
gonna you're not gonna
You know
test
what I
it
mean? Like,
in a factory.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna. It's not the same thing. But
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. To me, it's why.
Well, I'm curious if the power, my why is always, I have a Model Y, that's funny. My why is always how fucking fast they are and how quick the power comes on.
Absolutely, and I get that. But in this realm versus yours, it's a luxury.
Speed?
Yeah,
Or
the whole
acceleration.
thing, all of it.
Mine's a luxury.
Yes,
Okay.
it's a luxury.
You're right.
Not as that is bad.
You're
I
right.
have lots of luxuries like the rest of us.
You're
do.
right, of course.
But in the fire service industry, I mean, wow, what are we trying to accomplish? The reason that they went electric, so they're we're told, is better carbon footprint, better for the environment, blah blah blah. I get that. Okay, so your 18-wheelers running up down the road delivering our groceries are making the worst impact on your carbon footprint, which I don't care. We have to have our stuff. I'm not fussing, but a fire truck doesn't.
I think this carbon print thing, the more I don't know, the more I grow up, the more it might be bullshit. So, and this is something I wanted to bring up to you guys as
it's
well.
kind of interesting, right? Because I mean, let's face it,
I don't know.
the lithium, the cadmium, all the components of those batteries are mining it
Right.
is horribly
For the earth.
bad on the environment.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know, children slave labor,
Right.
like all the hypocrisy that goes into it. It's kind of like, okay, wait a minute.
There's and
You know
that's
what I mean?
anybody that tells you that one way or the other is the only
Right.
way is
No.
the same thing as the gun
I mean,
industry.
let's face
Like
it.
there's
I think
no
one day we'll probably be, mostly electric vehicles.
Right.
One day.
when they figure
not 10
out
years from now.
Yeah,
Right.
they-
Like that transition just can't happen overnight. And let's face it, what is it? Like some of the mines, was it Tennessee or Kentucky has a bunch, North Carolina has a bunch, but we can't mine any of those components here in the United States because of restrictions that they place. So
Exactly.
we've got to exploit. Africa, damn it,
Africa.
white man
Right.
exploiting
There-
Africa
of course,
again.
never
How's that
ends.
going to play out? So what's next? What replaces the electric?
and that's it. And that's the thing.
Water powered
They-
vehicle? I don't think that
well,
technology.
they're
is there
working
yet.
on that. They're working on
Right.
that. They're working
Yeah.
on fusion powered vehicles, and
Yeah.
then also they figured out a way to make a battery that's full of salt. Now, I don't want to speak out of place because I don't know enough about it yet. But the cool thing is, our society gets so like hung up on, hey, this is it. We've got this thing, and this is the way. Well, nuclear power is now. They just figured out how to make fusion. I don't know if y'all been following all the progress they're making on fusion.
I saw it.
Maybe not. I don't know. But I used to work in the nuclear industry, right? So like I am very interested in this fusion thing because fusion will be the next nuclear power. Now it took 60 years from like the conception of nuclear power in the late 1800s to them actually making it happen. Started in like the early 1960s. So like we have a while. But this fusion thing, man, if they can figure this out and harness it the way they're starting to do now, it's the next nuclear power. But you don't have to worry like you would still have to worry. Don't get me wrong. You still have like which bomb is it? It's the H bomb, right? The hydrogen bomb or whatever. You still have to worry about those explosions. It could absolutely happen.
Car crashes now. All of a sudden, firefighters' jobs just got a lot more
exactly
dangerous.
Right.
Yeah. How do we do that? Right?
We got to figure this out. But I just think it's all this shit is so interesting.
Yeah.
And Mr. C reminds me so much of my dad in that where like when I talk to my dad, no, stop. When I talk to my dad about these things, my dad's a very man's man, just like Tony, like Mr. C is, right? So I just always want to get inside their heads and just see like how are they perceiving this technology? Like, is it
I
stupid
think one of
to
the
you?
biggest markets that Elon Musk is missing is the 2,500 market, right? That 3/4 ton diesel truck market. Those trucks are big enough to tote enough battery that you could actually extend that range, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Freaking and match the range of our diesel pickups. They'll have the power and the torque to haul because their semi trucks that Tesla have are badass.
Yeah.
Right.
And can go for what 1,200 miles or something.
I don't know
It's
that
insane.
yet. Yeah, I'm not
and
sure.
don't quote me on that. And let's face it, the average dude who drives a F-250 or a 2,500 Ram, you think we want to pay those diesel prices and those fuel taxes and all that kind of stuff? As y'all well know, North Carolina has electric vehicle tax. People don't know that.
I'm
They do.
absolutely aware.
So they're gonna tax you one way or the other. But I really think that market, like they're missing the boat. I don't know. If you put an electric 3/4 ton pickup that can go as far, my 600-700 miles that my 3/4 ton diesel pickup can go.
They've got one.
I would
we're in
look at
line
that
for one,
truck.
but
just
the
one that
We've already
Ford
ordered the
invested in.
Tesla truck. Yeah,
Yeah,
he and I
have
both
you?
ordered it, but
Yeah.
the Lord knows when.
But and it's still a
yeah.
small truck. I'm talking about that 3/4 ton
Mm,
farmer, right?
Yeah.
The rural guy who doesn't want to pay those extra taxes on it. I don't know. I think they could develop that market and do really well.
I
don't know.
I can give you a counter opinion to that.
Huh?
Your farmers are not going to be first in line when it comes to
Ouch.
adopting
Damn
electric.
it! I didn't think about that.
Never.
The market's too small. When you're talking about the everyday drivers, versus the market that is the 2,500, the diesel,
Mhm.
there's no comparison.
I will say though, if you can get something that's that universal, that like he felt it the other day, like if you can get that speed and that power, so many of the diesel guys now are into the fast, like they want their diesel. You know what I'm saying? They put big rims on them. They want them to go fast as shit. Dude, that electric power, you can't fuck with it. And that was one of the reasons I was asking about the fire truck thing. Like, there's just so much power there to be harnessed. But I agree with you. I agree with both of you guys.
The
like,
electric motorcycles, the dirt bikes,
absolutely,
man, they are ripping
for sure.
No,
they are doing it very well.
I don't know. Let's just be practical and realistic about it, right? Like it's being shoved down our throat, like every other modern liberal agenda, and so there's going to be some pushback.
Yeah,
but hey, if there's a true transition and it's good for the environment, which and the earth and its people, then I think all of us practical, reasonable human beings are okay with it. It's got to make sense, and it can't happen overnight, right? Like if tomorrow morning we woke up and all the gas and diesel powered vehicles are done, right? Got to turn them in. Go pick up your new electrical vehicle, right?
This isn't gonna work.
We don't have the infrastructure
work.
to charge the damn things, which
we
is
do,
also
the giggles
powered
are
by
gonna go
diesel
way up.
generators.
Yeah, no, and they'll just make electricity more expensive, so you still have to pay for that.
Right? We're not there yet.
Now, and this is a question I wanted to ask everybody at the table as well, because I'm a fucking nerd, so I'm way big on this. Because I drive an electric car and everybody fucking hates me. They all assume when you're on the road, like they all assume that you are only driving an electric car because you think it's going to save the fucking planet. I'm not nearly that naive, right? I'm not that much. I still have, like I said, I have a Hemi Challenger. That's I still have a Hemi Challenger. It doesn't go anywhere without smoking the back tires, right? That's the only way that one gets driven. Now that's obviously really good for the environment too. Now, I don't believe. I mean, I understand that maybe I understand there's things that we're doing that may be speeding up the process, but throughout the history of our planet, haven't we seen and haven't we proven that there have been ice ages, and it'll get icy and then it'll warm up for a little while and then it'll get cold and then it'll warm and then it'll change. So my question is always, are we being fed something because there's so much money to be made on the global warming idea? Does that make sense? Like, and this
it's not global warming anymore because of the cooling trends.
Got
so
it.
It's climate change.
Climate change.
Yeah.
That's right. Understood.
Yeah.
But I question does anybody else have any thoughts like if you've ever paid attention to the different, like the Younger Dryas area? I don't know if I'm speaking French right now, right? But there's things, there's things that happened, in throughout history that we had no control over, right? Obviously, the saber-toothed tigers didn't have fucking F-250s. You see what I'm saying?
Right. The dinosaurs were not killed by diesel power.
Exactly right. So now just all of you, like one at a time, like
Go Steve.
Dude, the world has gotten so confused on blaming everything on climate change or cooling, and now the message is so messed up that even if you have an opinion about it, you're not even sure. Like, I feel like there's a whole bunch of us on the planet. Surely we've had some sort of effect, but I got my shoulder up because this group of people is telling me that I'm doing it, like True. I've messed up the planet, and then it's. Either way, the Tesla Model Y performance, oh my God.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm pro destroy the planet or child labor, but just right here in my own town, driving the Model Y, oh my God. Have you ridden in one yet?
Yeah, we rode in Sam's.
He didn't get on it after driving his.
Yeah,
Sam got on it a little bit, but oh my goodness!
After I watched his podcast with you guys, I was like, man, you can tell that Steve and Matt like have an idea, but they don't unless they've ever felt it. Electric power is.
Melissa has let me drive hers once.
Yeah,
one time.
That is. All
however, I have felt its power because Melissa drives it like a bat out of hell.
Yeah,
and like, there's been a couple times where I was like, ooh. Like this reminds me of the same type of G's I felt in helicopters and stuff,
Right, it's very similar.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Steve. Talking about the electric fire trucks, we were talking about the fears about electric fire trucks. Chris hit on it a little bit. You're a company officer. What would be your biggest fear with switching over to electric? I have my own opinion, obviously.
It's a good question.
What would be a fear of yours?
I honestly have no real big hesitation other than when the mechanic doesn't seem to trust it yet.
Right.
Then my concern would shift to, is this thing going to not get us to the scene? But honestly, like, I've driven his car and it's amazing. And it gave me this respect for the technology. So, that was one occurrence, but I see the industry, they've been out for a while. I've got a little bit of like default trust in it. I'm not sitting on a big fear. I think it's coming, and I think it's going to happen. It does concern me a little bit when the mechanic's like, I don't know, it's happening a little fast.
What about this is the first time I ever thought about fire trucks, electric fire trucks. I'm like, okay. What about like our big thing is right, flooding and hurricanes, right? That's probably going to be, ice and snow once every 6 years or something, but hurricanes, we have those quite often. And the flooding part, again, water, what happens then, right? Like if they can figure out how to waterproof everything, cool, but
it's true. And the firemen have to go through the floods to save people sometimes, right? Don't you guys have to go through high water?
We have trucks built for that.
Trucks built for those. So that's not a fire truck.
No,
but your car is able to drive when it's raining. With no problem.
I love puddles.
Yeah,
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but so I don't worry about even that.
Okay.
I think long term probably would cause some issues. Not
salt water.
That's what I was getting ready to tell you. Salt water would be the biggest
Salt water
thing.
kills everything.
Well, and salt water and batteries also catches fire. I don't know exactly the science behind that, but like if you have a flood vehicle that was flooded in salt water and then it dries out, something about the science there, it catches fire spontaneously.
Any type of dry powder can be turned into flammable and or explosive.
Okay.
Most any.
Right.
What was your concern with the electric fire truck?
I guess my biggest fear, I'm a driver operator. I'm a nothing nobody. But
come on,
yeah,
he does that every time.
But the switchover aspect of it, if it's going to be electric, I want it to be all electric and nothing else. But I have come to find out just through my time watching the industry kind of morph into where it is now, the more electronics to come about. You know, when I started, it was all the throttles were on the pumps. I'm talking about pump specific stuff here. You know, it was all turn knob. You turn it to idle the truck up to make the water shoot faster. For you folks, let me articulate this.
I'm working. I'm processing.
Yeah.
So you have to make the engine go faster.
I've used a pressure washer before.
There you go. Well, you have to make the RPMs on the engine go up in order to make the water come out at a pressure that can effectively put the fire out.
Yeah.
5 gallons per minute on a house fire is not going to put the house fire out when we need 150 or 250 or 1,000 or 1,250 or 1,500, whatever we need. But the more electronics have kind of come in, you know, like I said, when I started, it was all you turn a knob and the RPMs go up. You know, it's all manual. And, you know, all your levers and all that, how you make water come out of this discharge versus this discharge and so on. It was all mechanical. And if it failed, you could open a door to where this pump sits inside of this fire truck, and you can manually manipulate it to do what you need to
Tap
do.
it with a hammer.
Fixed.
Right.
You could fix it. You could self-diagnose it, and you could fix the problem. But now there's electronic coming out where I push a button, and my RPMs are starting to go up.
Right.
I push a button, and the RPMs go up. I push a button, they go down. I push a button, this valve, it sends an electronic signal that opens this valve, which makes water come out of this. If there's a failure, I can't open this door and fix it because there's nothing there to fix.
Need a backup, right?
And I've watched it fail before. I've watched it happen. So when it comes to all electric, if it's going to be electric, make it all electric. But this changeover from where it's going to be electric while we're driving and then diesel when I'm pumping a fire, I need my truck to perform to protect lives and property. I don't like that margin of error.
Understood.
It's
when we
uncomprehendable to me.
infilled into Afghanistan in 2001, right? I mean, we had our SATCOM radios and our HF radios that we actually, at the last minute, decided not to carry. SATCOM was going to work, right? We
Never
weren't
does.
sure.
Yeah.
And it did. But the radios we had on us to talk to each other and other teams, it was like, meh, they might work. So hand and arm signals, right? We had an alternate and a contingency, right? PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. But now, if you look at us, right, I run around, I've got, you know, a flip down little thing with a computer screen or an iPhone, you know, and I got more wires and, you know, electronics and hearing protection and all this stuff. And for the most part, it mostly works most of the time. You know what I mean? I can look at my little screen and see where you and your team is and where all my guys are at all times. And it's pretty amazing. But at the same time, man, you know, it works really great in the desert where it doesn't rain a lot. But our boys that are working the jungles and stuff down south, and, you know, it's always a concern that it's just not going to work. So we still have to maintain that backup plan.
So the issue that we're running into now is our younger generation, our new firefighters, our new pump operators that are coming in to our service that are learning the job that I do is they're not learning the mechanical backside of it.
Right.
So they're relying solely on
that's
these
not just your industry, right?
Yeah, everywhere. I just speak on it in my industry because this is what I live. But I mean, we've talked with Chris about it before. It's not going to be long before you get off the truck with an iPad and you operate everything with an iPad. You can walk around your truck. You can walk around the house that's burning, whatever. You can be like, oh, well, this is kind of not quite flowing what I needed to flow, so let me bump it up a little bit.
We're probably not too far from you don't even go with the truck to the fire.
We had that same conversation.
Right? Like it'll be everything before we know it. It's going to be so automated. You know?
And does that scare you? Does that bother you?
I look at it like this. You know, the gun industry and the operational inside it's always once something is filled and tested, right? We used to talk about like, you know, when we fielded the Glock, right? That was the last gun anybody wanted, right? But the 1911s they weren't working and they were falling apart. The 45 wasn't, you know, stopping people dead and, you know, like it was supposed to. So
I feel like there's humor wrapped up in that.
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Long story short, right? We needed this new pistol. So it had to be fielded and tested, right? And, you know, hundreds of thousands of rounds run through these guns before anybody, you know, like you always hear like, oh, those special forces guys can carry any gun they want. That's absolutely not true. They are tested, right? And it's not because we don't even want to carry whatever we want. We want to carry what we know has been tested and will work. So once those boxes have been checked and you've given me something, right? When it comes to guns and stuff, it's always that way. But with the electronics and the fancy radios and this new doodad whippity bop freaking gadget, right? It's always that stuff that fails.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like the same type of testing that we would apply to the guns. And luckily, because ultimately that is what we're going to, if I'm down to my pistol, clearly I'm in a pretty bad situation most of the time, right? But it is, man, it's these gadgets and stuff. But once they're tested and fielded and they work and stuff, then I'm like, all right, cool. I'm good with it. Let's roll with it. Let's go train with it and put it to the mission.
But you still have your defaults.
We still have our
your
pace
defaults.
plan, right?
Yeah,
we'll still go back to hand and arm signals.
Yeah, that,
that
primary, secondary, and tertiary is something that's kind of going away in our industry.
What the fuck did he just say?
Primary, secondary, tertiary. That's
Tertiary?
tertiary.
Explain it to him.
Okay, so
Third.
third plan. So
Yeah.
I got it.
Three.
Okay.
I got it.
T3.
There
you go.
Yeah, like I said, for us, it's pace, and I always say that's one of the major differences between Army special operations and some of the others. That pace plan, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. You're going to have 4 of everything, four extra batteries, 4 different modes of communication.
You've heard this
on and on.
tertiary term before?
Mhm. Yeah.
Where did this come from?
Tertiary effects.
What?
Tertiary effects, secondary effects, tertiary effects.
Our resident PA says it's Latin
It's Latin.
for 3.
Stop it.
Maybe.
You knew this
Probably.
as well?
But I'm
What
sure,
is, what is the ophthalmology of the word tertiary?
But I'm sure, like,
and let me just go ahead and say fuck to just, if I sounded smart, let me
back
just
down
throw the
to
F-bomb out to remind folks I am still a knuckle dragger.
But I'm sure even Chris. I mean, he's been teaching this world of pumps and mechanics. He's a lot like you said, Mr. C. I'm never going to call you that. By the
No,
way,
you need to call him
It's
that.
so weird.
Put some
Tony.
respect on his name.
Mr. Tony or Tony. He's much like Tony in the fact that he's very good at articulating what's going on in his brain and giving a reason why this is happening. And even he grew up with the ideas of there's always a mechanical backup. There's always something else in case something fails. You have a way to overcome it and still accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, the mission, if you will, which in our case is saving lives and property. You still have a way to do that. And the electronics is getting rid of that for us. Mm-hmm. It's cutting the ability to problem solve to the fact that we can affect it immediately on the fire ground when we need to perform. It's cutting it out. Yeah. I have to call Chris. Hey, come plug your computer in and fix this valve, or hey, come do this.
I think the
fix
scariest
this
part that we're seeing is like it used to be that American get it done.
Pumps and valves.
That we're at all costs, right? Yeah. That American spirit of just get it done, right? I think that was the ultimate backup plan, right? Like if the fire truck fails, you know what? You're gonna freaking run to the next door neighbor's house and get the water hose, right?
Damn right.
Yeah, and the same for us, right? Like worst case scenario, we'll get down to a knife, hands, fist. We're going to accomplish the mission, right? And I think that part of the American spirit is being stifled. So that I don't even know what the right word for that is, right? That is it ingenuity? I don't know. That let's just get it done. We will figure it out on the fly if we have to. When everything else has failed, we will figure it out and get it done. That part to me is what we're starting to lose.
Technology always. I hear him and I saw like legitimate concern and heard it in his voice whenever they were doing their first podcast with him about all the new components and the electronics on the trucks and things like that. I think. There's technology will always help us until it doesn't.
Right.
I don't know how else to put that.
Well,
right.
I mean,
I want to answer what you asked a while ago to tell you about when you said, do you trust it?
Yeah.
So I want you to think about it this way. So your car is smart enough to know when you're driving down the road, if someone tries to merge on you, and it will alert you with vibrating the seat or moving over or doing whatever.
Beeping.
whatever. Okay. So that car's smart enough to understand what happens normally on most any highway drive. Okay. But if a boulder fell off the side of a mountain in front of your car, I guarantee you it wouldn't know what to do with that.
Right.
That's what happens in the fire truck.
You're already
industry
in an extreme environment.
all the time.
Nothing that happens in an extreme environment is normal.
Right. So we talked about this. How do you write all of those things that could possibly happen into that system
right. I remember y'all
that
saying
tells
that.
you what to do? You can't. You can't take a judgment call by him out of that equation. A computer can't make that judgment call for life.
Right.
It can. The government probably wants us to make that judgment call where you're not worth living anymore, so we take you out. It happens. But you can't do that this way. So that's what I don't trust.
Right.
I don't think that it'll ever be able to handle every scenario that we would see efficiently and safely to protect the people that they're going after or themselves.
Well, wouldn't you be making the fire truck, though, do the exact same things that it's doing now? It would just be using electricity instead of motor?
Well, to some extent. So the electric part of the driving, that does not really bother me.
Oh, you mean automated.
But the automated part of the system. So
shoot.
there is, we talked about this during that first podcast, there is a system out now that looks like an iPad. And you just drag stuff over to tell the truck what to do. Well, like he said, what happens when that system fails? You have no backup. There are no levers on the side of that truck.
Right.
So what do? You don't do anything. You're done. And
more importantly, my boys inside
are done. That's right.
I mean, those guys operating on the inside of the house, they're relying on the water in order to suppress the fire. And if they don't have water, then
but can't the
situation gets shitty real quick.
The note I'm making to myself is, as we are about to start building a new home, is sprinklers.
That's right. But isn't there a chance of these things? I'm sorry, I'm not talking to Mike. Isn't there a chance of these things happening with the mechanical fire trucks we have now? Isn't there always a chance?
There is, but he knows how to overcome that.
Got it.
How do I teach him how to write a program for that computer to fix the problem that he's doing while he has people inside that he only has a couple seconds to get it done?
Now, if you guys have a failed fire truck now, what's the procedure? What's the protocol? SOP?
That just happened recently, as a matter of fact.
Okay, that's my point. So me and my father go back and forth about this, and this all the time. And I'm gonna look at Mr. C because he just, it feels like I'm talking to my dad.
You mean Tony?
So so no. So I seriously.
Come here,
so
sorry.
I know that's right. That's what I feel like. So seriously, I tell my dad all the time, like, the more he gets nervous about so many things that are happening, because all he does is watch Fox News, right? Like, he's got it running constantly at his house. So, okay, so so he's having flashbacks. He's got PTSD about Fox News and all of his stuff he's had recently. But no, seriously, you can be afraid about everything, right? Or you can have a plan for everything. And I do agree with you about a lot of this stuff. People feel like they're being forced. My dad told me that, like, he relates it whenever we're having these conversations. He always says that, like, when he was a kid, they didn't have to wear seatbelts. There wasn't a seatbelt law. And then whenever that seatbelt law came in and they were forcing people to wear seatbelts, everybody was pissed. They were like, we're not going to wear these stupid seatbelts because we haven't been wearing seatbelts. Well, now looking back on it, now that we're 20, 30, 40 years into seatbelts, we're like, damn, like, seatbelts are kind of a good idea. Like, they kind of hold you in place and keep you from getting thrown out of cars sometimes. And
that's funny because I see it as just another way the Highway Patrol generates revenue.
That's how my dad sees it.
And the court.
That's how. See, this is why I keep him around.
I know that seatbelts are a good idea, right? Like, I mean, one time I had a seatbelt. Luckily, I had it on and was attached to a helicopter as it rolled over. And, it was a great thing.
Absolutely.
In the couple of accidents I've been in a car, I wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so I got a little lucky on some of that. But, I get frustrated when the government tells me what I have to do.
And this is the
now,
issue.
Your dad again.
I'm okay with the government telling people they have to strap their children in. right? Like, okay, because we get it. Some
because
parents,
they can't make a conscious decision.
right,
Right.
they're
Different.
innocent,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
totally different.
Yeah.
But me, if I don't want to wear a seatbelt, right? Freaking, I don't want the dude, who speeds in his Charger and freaking text
you,
while he's
Dane.
driving. He's also got window tint on his vehicle that I can't have. I don't want that dude telling me that freaking I have to wear a seatbelt.
That seems very pointed.
That's right.
Hey, and to all my highway patrol
Okay.
buddies out there,
Right.
to you guys the troopers that don't know me, I am very supportive of you guys, love you guys, but at the same time, you know what? Stop writing so many tickets.
I had
I like
to do
it.
just the other day. There's a car wash right next door to the shop, and just the other day I had an old Corvette at the time that I was working on, and it's 6-speed, and I pulled in the parking lot, started doing donuts like immediately. I didn't see that this sheriff's deputy had pulled into that car wash next door and was just like watching me. And as soon as I got done, I looked over at him, and he looked at me, and he flashed his lights, and he said, "Go somewhere else and quit being stupid," or whatever, and like put his shit down and let me roll. I was like, man,
Yeah,
I don't know how
Yeah,
I avoided
good for
that
him,
one,
man.
but
Good for him.
holy
but you know
crap.
what
It's 'cause
sucks
I had
out of
my
what he
seatbelt
just
on.
said?
Let me take
He
this
just said that
opportunity.
an old Corvette had a 6-speed in it. It wasn't that old if it had a 6-speed in it.
Let me
Dad.
take this opportunity. Let me
Thanks, bro.
take this opportunity to draw the parallel for you right here with the question about the electric vehicles. You just said you were doing what to the Corvette?
Donuts?
Nope, you were doing something else.
Working on it.
Okay.
Mm.
Can you work on your Tesla?
Absolutely not. I don't touch that. Yeah, I don't touch that thing.
This is
Now-
my mic drop moment.
Now, okay, you're right, but this is also a new technology, right? So we've had the same technology forever.
At the flip side, right? Like I also can't work on my Dodge.
Right. Well,
pickup.
he had a Ford forever that I remember had like one door handle, right? That Ford
That
truck, that pickup truck that you had.
That F-250 took quite the ass.
She was
whooping.
a trooper.
That truck, man.
But no, I see that it's the same thing. Like, why don't, whenever you go to deployments, why would you prefer something more modern as opposed to like the what's one that like all the Vietnam vets always like the M14? Right? Like they
Yeah.
always say, man, that's all I need is an M14, man. Just
Yep,
give me an
308.
M14 and a 308.
Dodge
baby.
Caliber, 308,
Why did you
308,
make like a redneck
1911.
accent?
Yeah, he started talking like
Yeah.
you. That was weird.
1911, right? 2 world wars. And then you're like, wait a minute.
Look at
We
it
actually
twice.
never really shot anybody with 1911s until Iraq, right?
So
Yeah.
this is good though. Like
No.
I love these conversations because I just wish I wish my father could see that the pros and the cons are almost even.
Yeah.
Like there
Well,
are-
what I get from all these guys about electric fire truck is if when the technology is there, that they are no longer concerned that it could fail and therefore they don't accomplish their mission of protecting people and property. Well, at that point, they don't care anymore, right? Like it could be electric, nuclear powered, whatever.
Can you-
cool if it works.
Can you imagine what it felt like for the first guy that drove a fire truck versus a horse and carriage fire truck?
Whoa.
So
yeah.
we're in the same thing. The same exact thing
Yep.
is
You're
happening.
right.
For sure.
And it always will.
It's gonna forever. But
My horses will always work.
that's right.
Yeah,
That
same mentality.
that
right?
farmer or
Mhm.
rancher or whatever that had those horses
Yep.
thought,
Mhm.
yeah,
What if this fails?
these things are
Yeah.
going to get up in the
Mhm.
morning and they're going to work until you tell them to quit.
That's right.
Okay. Why would I put my faith in something that is mechanical?
Mechanical.
Right.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't put my faith in a horse today. I mean,
Mhm.
That's
I
right.
like them.
All my rancher buddies,
Right.
the few rancher buddies I have, they don't have horses anymore. They have side-by-sides
Right.
and ATVs.
And I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So
And drones. They're herding cattle with drones.
Right.
So
it's coming, and
That's
I
cool.
know it's coming.
Right.
But to me, like this is not. More has to be done and thought out about this before.
It's not the place to test it, right?
that's
No,
the
that-
emergency
there you go.
You know what I mean?
That is exactly
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
yeah, like-
Test it
I'm sure.
somewhere different,
Yeah,
which
but
would be
where?
hard.
Where? So
Which
I mean,
would
if
be
you
hard.
don't-
That's what I
yeah,
said.
Yeah, if you don't test it with us on the guys on the street, then who tests it?
Uh-huh.
We've got one in that I know of. We've got one electric fire truck in the U.S. right now, and that's in L.A.
Uh-huh.
So it's the first one that ever came
There's
here.
one in North Carolina too, but I can't remember where it's at. But it's Raleigh-ish over.
So
that
I guess
area.
it would be like this: the combined technologies that are in your truck.
Mm.
There's got to be other subcomponents out there. Other types of pumps and things like that are similar. That the technology could be at least vetted, not perfectly tested to your specifics, right? Like once
Charlotte.
that has happened, Once
Yeah.
that has happened, then you put them all together, and now it's rigorously tested for how many ever months, years, hours, whatever you want to say. And once that confidence is gained, and then it's fielded with backups with diesel conventional powered vehicles,
Right.
then maybe 10 years or how many ever years that it's vetted, tested, readied, and accepted
Is Charlotte
by
in a
the
two-company house?
operators, right?
Mhm.
Operator level.
People that are on there, yeah.
You
Doing it.
give that checkbox,
Mhm.
and then maybe you trust it. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Have you guys seen that? And I know it's disgusting because it's one more way that they're like, oh, we've got to reduce our carbon footprint. But they're trying to build this city in Saudi Arabia. You've been watching that, the
Yeah.
Line City that they're
Yep.
building. Are you familiar with this at all?
No.
I don't blame you.
I have regressed in the last 6 months.
The
Don't
outside
you,
of
like,
it's a
you
mirror.
should have.
you know,
That's
Yeah.
good.
yeah.
But they're trying to build a city, but it's basically just two the towers. They keep calling it Tower 1. What's the World Trade Center? World Trade Center 1. I'm not sure exactly which building that was or what the shape of it is. But they're saying that this monstrosity that they're building through the desert in Saudi Arabia is supposed to be like 170 kilometers long, and it's the height of that World Trade Center Tower 1, whatever this is. So it's literally like you stacked 2,000 on each side of these buildings, long ways, and they're literally building an entire city this way. They look like two lines going down the middle of the desert, and they just go up. So they're trying to make it so that like people don't need cars, right? So everything's close enough to where everybody can walk within like 5 minutes to get to whatever they want to get to. They're supposed to be using solar and wind power to get all their energy, and then their water's coming from the sea. They're using one of those, I'm going to fuck this name up,
Salination.
what did you say?
Salination.
Desalination.
Desalination plants. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
So they've got
But
all this figured out.
desalination, all that stuff, that technology is like the energy it takes to desalinate water is like
Is it huge?
it's so inefficient.
Understood. This
Yeah,
this
I don't
whole
know.
thing seems insane.
Yeah.
Like they're talking trillions of
Well,
dollars.
I look at cities, generally speaking, at this point, and especially after COVID, right? COVID proved, right, that college campuses and pretty much everything that cities used to serve civilization, cities no longer provide that. Cities only exist to support themselves, right? Cities no longer produce and export anything. They only import and consume.
Right.
So this thing sounds like it's just a monster of those. And let's face it, when you saw with the pandemic, right? Sampson County had like no one die from it, but Wilmington did, and all the cities did. So that thing just sounds like a monster super spreader event waiting to happen for whatever the next. And what's really scary about all of that, you know, like when I see cities, man, right? Like I will tell you guys, right? When I told Melissa I was coming to Wilmington today to do this, she was like, because I hate even coming to Wilmington. Right? If I got to go through more than 2 traffic lights, which is how my life exists now,
Right.
for me to go into Clinton, that's my big city now, right? I have to go through 2 traffic lights to get to Lowe's, right? And that's really the only reason I go to Clinton in the gym. And so, like, when I see cities, man, that's what I see now. It's just this congregation of women and men just crammed together for no real necessity anymore.
Right.
And when there is a true killer pandemic, man, I mean, what's going to happen then? You know, it's kind of scary, right? And worse, because a lot of folks are like, you know, we've dismissed this pandemic. What happens if a real one does come? And I don't know. There's just like I said, that city sounds like,
Yeah. No.
especially
That's a really good way to put it.
Knowing the culture, knowing that culture in that part of the world, sounds like one nasty, nasty place waiting to happen. I don't know.
I agree. No, I'm right there with you.
Interesting though.
I do. No, absolutely. I'm very curious. Like, I just love anything that involves like new technologies. I think it's awesome, but I also like to see pass or fail. Like so many new technologies, so many new ideas do fail. I would be curious, like, were you there when they first started using like EOTechs, the red dot? They went from hard sites that you were there. Yeah. So like
Yes,
when
I'm
those,
that old.
yeah. So, well, no. So my,
I am really, I'm lucky because, you know, I got in '97,
Okay.
And it was right when the red dot optics were kind of a thing. But you know what? We infilled into Afghanistan. Most of us put our iron sights back on.
That was my question. Did
on our
dudes trust the
M4s.
red dots?
Because red dots at that time, aim points were the standard.
Yeah.
They were new, and some guys were still using the reflex sights, which were tritium powered. From the sun.
That's nuclear.
Yeah, right. They, it was a CQB thing only, and when we went to the field, it was like single point sling. It was a CQB only thing.
Uh-huh.
So in the field, like infilling into Afghanistan, it was back to dual point slings and iron sights and all that technology that we had been playing with for CQB. The urban environment. Now we're back into the mountains, and we went back old school technology. Yeah.
Have you been flying at all lately? Do you ever fly anymore, or have you at all?
Not in a few years.
Yeah, I would be curious to know, what is that technology?
Electronics have gone into the airplanes.
Oh yeah.
When I started learning to fly, we had an iPad, and you could use it for the taxiways and navigation only as an auxiliary. So it was like, you can have it. I couldn't have it on my solos. Like, they didn't want you leaning on that. You had to use a paper map. But that's 10 years ago. So, but now people are learning and using as a primary the electronics.
Yeah.
So
My bud has a Super Cub out in Idaho, and
Like a bear?
a J3 Super Cub. It's one of the bush
It's a plane,
planes.
Dane.
Plane.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's-
Fuck.
so-
Y'all gotta
dude,
spell shit out
so,
for me, man.
Like it's the type of plane that you would want if you were a private pilot, right? It's the planes where they land like on little gravel strips in the middle of the rivers, and then they
Excellent.
turn around, and they take right off in like 2 feet and stuff.
Is that what we're gonna get?
Amazing.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sweet.
amazing. Because I guess Idaho has more backcountry airstrips than any other state except for Alaska, right?
Mm.
And he's got avionics in that little thing.
Mhm.
It's a go-kart with a propeller,
Mhm.
basically,
Mhm.
and all electronics.
That's
I mean,
what
it's
we're going to
pretty
get
amazing.
so we can land in people's parking lots.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's hot.
Yeah.
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 We did one of those helicopter tours. Tila and I did one of those helicopter tours in Myrtle Beach.
When you said that, I was thinking he just spent $20
First of all,
for how many minutes?
it wasn't long.
No.
It was very short. But Dad gave it to us as a gift. Well, first of all, Tila loves shit like that, so he gave it to Tila. The problem with him giving it to Tila was he had to buy 2 tickets. I had to do that shit with Tila. Guess who's terrified of heights? Like, don't even like being on this fucking table terrified of heights,
It
right?
just blows my mind,
Bro,
but-
it is just not fun for me. Like, I did it and it was interesting, but watching this, there was a girl was flying it and she had this little Atari joystick looking shit, right? And this is what she's doing her thing, and that was very scary with how simple that design is. But it worked, like you guys say. The shit works. They just keep it around and it does what it's supposed
The
to
thing
do.
with helicopters is, man, when they don't work, their glide ratio is 0. You're
That's-
going to crash.
that's what I
there's
tried to
no,
say.
There's
I
no
was
coasting in, none of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
Yep.
I felt the exact same way. Last thing, there was one more note that I had made that I wanted to.
Jesus
Why I had you?
Christ,
I
he's
know.
made notes?
I did. No, I
That's some
absolutely,
preparation
absolutely
stuff,
did.
man.
Because when I get all these minds,
You
I
really
love,
are a nerd.
I
yes.
know, and I love talking to people. I love gathering information by bouncing shit off people. As Mr. C, the whole time we're out there, I'm
You
on the
mean Tony?
ground. He's trying to. Dude, he's like he's a teacher. He's an instructor to me, right? So, like, anybody who's ever taught me anything, number one, I hold him in the highest regard. Number two, you have to respect these people. And in my opinion, it pisses me off whenever I see his Instagram and dudes are talking shit to him on Instagram that are fucking 18, 19, 20. Bro, I get fucking pissed. I can't even look at his Instagram anymore.
Was this in the notes? Is this the note?
No, it's not. Now I'm
You know what?
sidetracked. Now I'm
See,
distracted.
People,
they don't call him
you
sir.
You know
they
how
don't, they
I
don't
I
respect
fire
him.
off and I'll
shitheads.
talk a little shit to him sometimes.
Oh.
It's fun for me because, people go to the internet to argue and stuff, right? And we have these young males in America today who, they want to talk smack to, somebody they in
That has a little
any
clout.
other scenario, they wouldn't open their mouths,
True.
right? And, they're insecure, and talking tough to me makes them feel pretty on the inside. And I'm like, good for you, buddy.
Mhm.
I'm like, at any time you'd like to get more intimate with me, my address and phone number is on my website. Swing by. Until then, Good luck, youngin. Freaking have a nice day.
I can't say, even like the military guys that I see around his range, they're not saying sir to him. And I even asked him one time, I was like,
I'm
do
not
they
a
not?
sir, though.
Do they? But yeah, you are, because
No.
like you in the military, don't you have some rank in the military
if you want
as
to,
well?
you can call me Sergeant First Class. How about that?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Or just Sergeant.
This keeps getting better.
Sergeant.
Can I call
No,
you?
in SOF, you just call each other by our names. You know, like
They don't say yes, sir, whenever you ask them to do things?
Typically, it's majors you don't know and above,
Huh?
right? And,
But aren't you-
for me, it was always like Lieutenant Colonel I don't know and above, and that used to get me in trouble.
No. I just thought, like, people that are older than you, I was always taught you need to yes
Absolutely,
or no, sir.
I still yes ma'am, no ma'am,
Yes, sir,
or
and no, sir,
yeah.
my children.
There you go. And
I
I
really do.
think those
Yeah.
values will carry over into
Yeah.
them.
Manners
I
never
don't
go out of style.
I don't
Not in my
see the
opinion.
manners.
Yeah.
That breaks my heart. It hurts me.
Yeah,
No.
no.
The as far as he was talking earlier about how much money we've sent to this Ukraine thing.
Oh God.
Yeah. No, I want, all I'm doing is bouncing ideas off of guys that I really like hearing their input. So like, what do we think is the end result of that?
We're idiots. That's not a result, but that's what happens. We're the United States is an idiot.
Yeah, I have strong opinions about
I
that.
do too. I've
Okay.
heard your feelings.
wanna
I'm
hear
sorry,
'em.
but there's so much going on here
Right.
that we should spend our money figuring out what to do with instead of sending shit to third world countries all the time. I don't get it.
Yeah, there's some dark shit happening with the whole Ukraine thing. We're sending boatloads, plane loads of
So,
money. It's not good. It's not good at all.
Having participated in foreign affairs at various levels, from the tactical all the way to the strategic level, right? The regional, like Central Asia, we need to maintain as a world leader some type of influence around the world, right? That it is imperative for maintaining that clout and influence, and therefore keeping the world a peaceful place. That is not what we do, right?
No.
When Bill Clinton was in office, Vladimir Putin requested a pathway to becoming a member of NATO. And Bill Clinton told him to piss off. Could you imagine a world in which America and Russia were allies, right? And people don't always understand the definition of ally. Ally is two entities or two people, two entities in this case, that have similar interests, and therefore you can trust each other. I always tell people it's better to have a bunch of allies than a bunch of friends, right? Allies, you have a similar pathway, you have vested interests, vested goals, and therefore you can trust each other. Well, we can't trust Russia, and they can't trust us. We're constantly undermining each other like a bunch of children. All the while, China's over here taking advantage of this situation while we're both distracted with each other. But could you imagine a world today in which, the two largest, most powerful countries on this planet before China rose, right? Because it is arguable that China is now the most powerful country on this planet. It's arguable in the economic realm, not militarily, right? Could you imagine if we were working together, right? If these two countries, Russia and America, were working together. Instead, you've got warmongers that are like, we need to take every advantage we can to weaken Russia's military. Russia's military is already about as weak as it can get. It is broken. It is busted. And, we got Russia, we got Ukraine, two of the most corrupt countries on this planet. And all we're doing is supporting a war. We're fueling that war. Have we not had enough war? And don't get me wrong, I've been a pretty darn active participant in the last 21 years of war, right? And I mean, whatever, I'm always honest with people, right? I continue to participate in war. But good God, man, freaking, there is no good end result of fighting Russia. We got Putin, who is clearly a prideful person who does not want to lose. And we've got Joe Biden, who is a bumbling dementia. Like, those are the people who are controlling the footballs. The nuclear arsenals of the world. There's no winning in this, man. It's nothing but a waste of money. And like you said, man, we could stand that money in our economy right now.
Right.
Easy.
And
And something else that you may can help me with this that I don't really don't understand is where's the infatuation with any other country and us and any other country? I have a neighbor who lives across the street from me. We wave when we go outside. We don't go to each other's house to eat. If I needed something from them, I could go get it. But they don't bother me. They don't come look in my windows, and we live just fine. They don't want anything I have. I don't want anything they have. So why?
Well, the most obvious answer, and it's only part of it, because if there's one thing I know about our government is I don't have a clue what's really going on. I peek behind some curtains here and there, having worked for since 2005, some understanding of some of the manipulation and crazy stuff that we get up to. But the military industrial complex needs a war, right? They always need a war the Javelin missiles, and this was always funny because I remember the congressman that I was challenging saying that we had taken our Javelins from our military and sent them to the Ukraine, so we need more money to replace them. That was not true. We didn't go to Camp Lejeune and Fort Bragg and get the Javelins from those those ASPs and send them overseas. No, we sold the ones that those companies had sitting, the manufacturers of those weapons. And now they need to make more.
Yeah.
Right? So we send all that stuff, and then, now they have to make more, so we have to pay for more. Man, just the lethal aid, the bullets that we're sending for AKs there, right?
It's crazy.
Hundreds of millions of dollars in lethal aid, right? It is absolutely crazy. You'll find this interesting. We've sent somebody, I forget the exact number, but it was like $200 million worth of F-250s to the Ukraine. And not one of them have the DEF systems on it. No emission systems whatsoever. Yep.
We sent 5 F-250s? That's crazy.
Right. Insane.
Yeah. It was just hilarious that the double standard.
I bet the chip was in those.
Yeah. I just thought it was hilarious that the double standard about all this emissions and stuff is that we'll package all these vehicles and send them to Ukraine with none of the emission stuff that we are mandating on our own people.
It's like it doesn't affect everybody.
The same liberals that are like, we need to, clean up the environment. Hey, let's send all these, these trucks to
It's
Ukraine.
so simplistic that it's we're looking at it on a national level, but the same exact thing happens on local levels. That's the stuff that most people don't pay attention to because it's not on the news per se. Everybody watches Fox News, not their local news.
Right.
But it's the same thing when it comes to just take a county government. I'll take ours for an example. When they take and reallocate funds from, say, the fire department and then they put it into something else.
I'll tell you where it's going. Apartment buildings.
Exactly. It's the same thing, but it's on a keeping it in financial context. It's a much smaller scale, but it's the same thing. And it goes all the way up to now we're doing it with other countries. And it's just,
because let's face it, if we actually cared about ending war, we would just grab them both by their necks, stop fighting, or else. Right, it's getting ready to get real bad for both sides. Right, we're going to shut down the sanctions. We're going to shut down anything that you need imported for your people to survive on. We're shutting it down, right? And we could end that war, but instead we're sending money and lethal aid and everything else that keeps the war going.
Yeah, you painted a picture for sure.
It's horrible, man, and it's absurd because it's easy for the cocksuckers on Capitol Hill, right? Like. And I don't play any punches, right? Like Dan Crenshaw's been one of the worst ones, right? You would think I'd be all about some soft dude, right? No, absolutely not, right? Oh, we got to, any chance we get to knock down Russia's military, right? That's a good thing. How? How is that a good thing when all we're doing is creating death in another land, right? That makes us evil. And we're already considered the evil Western Empire.
Bullies,
many, right? This war in Ukraine is undermining our influence and power around the globe, right? People see us as fueling a war because we've already been doing it, right? 500,000 dead Iraqi civilians for what? Right? For what? What are we doing here? We have to answer that question. For what? For what? And none of them can answer that, man. Just like Iraq. For what? What was the point? No one has an answer to that question except for fueling the military-industrial complex.
You're originally from, where was it?
Pamlico County?
That's right. And then you're originally from somewhere just outside of town as well, but it was close, right?
Yeah, Rose Hill.
Rose Hill. I got it. So
Still from Rose
still
Hill.
there. You still live there?
Yeah, 47 years worth.
So I have you ever lived in town, or have you always lived in Rose Hill? You ever lived in Wilmington?
No.
Did you ever live in town at all? Yeah.
10 years.
When he was talking about just then with like I can't remember exactly what he said, but it made me think of like, what is the reason? Oh, he was talking about what is the reason of supporting the war or like supporting death, right? Like, my question is always, and maybe you guys can answer this because y'all are, I don't maybe more smart than I am, but what is the reason? Like, what would make our community or our like what would make Wilmington overall better? Whenever we cut down all these these trees that they're constantly cutting down and putting in apartment complexes, like to bring more people in, whenever we don't necessarily have like more jobs or more things to support people or I don't know, maybe make it clearer for me. I don't know if there's something I'm missing because I'm naive. I'm kind of young and naive. I don't know.
I'll take this one. It's corruption.
Okay, that's a simple answer. Like, and you feel the same way.
Oh yeah.
Now, is that making its way to? Have you seen it in Rose Hill yet? I know that he's far enough out still to where like he hasn't seen it yet. But I know that I'm moving to just outside of town right now to get away from town because of how much it disgusts me. And
we're trying to build a new house
where
on our property, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to frame it. Neighbor and I is pouring the concrete, et cetera, et cetera. I drew the plans. But I'm waiting on septic permits.
Stop it.
And building permits and
Forever.
all these. I have to go ask these people who have never built a thing in their lives for permission to do something. And I get
your
it.
property.
On your own
on my property, I pay taxes on. And when they issue me those permits, I have to pay a fee to get them, right? And I'm like, okay, hey, I get it. Codes make sense. They need to be safe. But, like, hey, the inspector should just swing by and tell you if it's good or not, right? Check that box, right? There's certain phases. They come in, check the stuff out. Cool. But no, you have to ask all this permission. Well, it's weeks before they can get
Absolutely.
out to, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, so yes, the corruption, it's crap. Yeah. I always go back to this, like, what is the lowest common denominator of every single problem on this planet?
Money.
Bro, the only
I
color,
disagree.
The only
Disagree.
thing that matters in this entire country is the color green. That's it.
Okay.
The color green and greed. That's it.
So
That's it.
people.
Yeah. Well, people are always
It's the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
The lowest factor in
Yeah.
every single problem that exists on this planet. Because if tomorrow morning, right, we didn't wake up, all the people on this planet were poof, gone. Mother Earth would be like,
It's
and
about
she
time.
would
Life
go
is
right back to
good.
being perfect.
Uh-huh.
Homeostasis would happen in weeks,
Uh-huh.
And so the answer is we have all these problems, right? And I don't know that any of the answers will ever happen. There's always resets, right? As every civilization has gotten too big for its britches, to start with one of the first ones, Sumer, all the way to Mesopotamia, and then Babylon, and then all the way, they always fail. There's always a reset, and then corruption only gets more and more civilized, right? In America, we'll use the police officer analogy, right? You get stopped, you get a ticket, you get a court date, you got to pay some court costs, you got to hire a lawyer, on and on and on, right? Man, you get stopped for speeding in a third world country, you give the police officer the money. The corruption is right then and there. It's simple, and it's one of the reasons why I like third world countries. It's easy, right? It's not all this civilized corruption. It is blatant and easy. Iraq was pretty simple. If I wanted something, that US dollar, easy. Haiti, I've worked in Haiti quite a bit, man. It is so simple. As opposed to here in the States where like the corruption is layered. I can't just walk into, the the building inspector's office, the permitting office, and slide a dude $100 bill and get my permit. Well, in Iraq, if I wanted to get on an airline with a frag grenade, I'd slide them $100 bill, and now I'm flying anywhere I want to Europe, with a grenade in my freaking backpack. And not saying that it's a better form of corruption. I'm saying it's simpler and easier to navigate.
Right.
It's just so frustrating, man.
I'm sure there's a lot of regulations you're like you own your own business, correct? Like you don't contract for anybody or anything like that.
No, well, no.
I heard you make reference to in your other one of the podcasts before about how much more expensive it gets every year to do what you're doing.
It is.
Yeah.
Insurance, the cost of the equipment, the tools, that kind of thing.
That's what it was. The tools. That's what you're talking about. The tooling is so much more expensive.
So I started this business in 2004, and when I first started it, you could have a toolbox full of hand tools, and you were fine. Now, about $10,000 a year in a computer program to be able to plug into the truck that I don't even own, and you're relying on somebody else's stuff. Like they make you have it to be able to do it. So, and that's going to get worse.
Has it made the trucks any safer, more effective, or more efficient? Do you think? Like, is there anything the trucks are doing better now with the upgraded technology? I'm trying to just be positive always. Like, look for the silver lining.
Yes, I do think that there are things that are better. It'll always get better. We're not gonna reach a plateau to where things aren't better. It doesn't work that way. But there are things that are a lot safer. I'll give you a quick example that you probably won't understand, but you'll get it. 20 years ago, it was possible for a truck that you drove to a fire call and you put it in gear to pump to drive away. Like it could possibly move and leave the scene. That's almost impossible now.
Cool.
So there are a lot of things that they've done that is good for safety and things like that. So yeah, but it just costs more. Trucks cost more.
Do you make more?
Not with the change of times more.
No, like, do you make more? And obviously, you have more expenses, so you make more, and it's like the even. But like,
yeah. You have to. You have to charge.
Right, of course.
Trickle down economics.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, everything.
So it's interesting to me how like inflation keeps making everything more expensive, but I don't remember us ever, like when I was growing up, I don't ever remember anybody in my family ever having the kind of money that I have now. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
oh, absolutely.
We all have so much more money now. I feel like
even poor people in America are pretty well off.
That's right.
That's the crazy thing.
I have a counter to that.
Gimme.
So our everybody sitting here as parents were able to have a one-income household, buy a house, raise children, and not start shotguns because they couldn't pay their bills.
Well, they did it because there was no other choice. Now,
what is cheaper than 20, 40 years ago? Is there anything that's cheaper?
No.
You know what?
but you have to think about it like this. What you just said makes a lot of sense. There's a possibility for that to still happen now, but your parents didn't want things that you want and like you want and like I want and you and you and you.
Yeah.
That is what has changed so much. Right on
Solid
down.
point.
Right,
point.
Right on down to the fact that, how old are you?
37.
37. You're so old enough. So back when, just say you were 5 and your mom drove to the grocery store one time a week,
right,
to get groceries for your entire week.
Right.
We went from that to going to the grocery store every day,
right,
because you can't plan, to where we are now.
Yeah.
Fuck going to the grocery store, just order it online. And so you can remember if you ever were younger and ordered something and it took like 3 or 4 weeks to get here.
Exactly.
How pissed off would you be?
Devastating.
Yeah.
How pissed off would you be if you couldn't get something in a couple days?
I remember the first skateboard that I got, Mike McGill skateboard, and delivery estimates from California were 8 to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
That just popped in my head because you said that. Now if I couldn't get a skateboard right now, I'd be pretty aggravated.
Be pretty mad.
Yeah.
But your
Amazon now,
Yeah,
right?
but your
Have you seen
parents-
that skit? There's a comedian
Absolutely.
that's like Amazon now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But
Huh.
your parents didn't. They wanted things. There's
Uh-huh.
no doubt. If they didn't want to be better, you wouldn't be here. But it wasn't the same way that we are now. I would think this.
Our culture has changed.
It is your
Great.
culture. Our culture changed.
Our value
Absolutely.
system has changed.
Right.
When my parents were raising me at 5 and 6 years old, and all of our neighbors came over and did stuff together, there was no "wish we had what they had" thing.
Right.
Now that's everywhere.
Right.
And I don't want to make it sound bad because, like, keeping up with the Joneses, that's a big thing that people say. I don't necessarily think that I want to keep up with the Joneses, but there are more things available now. So if I see you have it, it doesn't mean I want it because you have it. It means I want it because I saw it.
Yeah.
Not
it's visible.
because it's yours.
Absolutely.
I'm not jealous of you.
Uh-huh.
Now that visibility is everywhere you turn,
Right.
and it makes people want more. And they do that on purpose
Oh,
to
yeah.
make you buy stuff so other people will have money. So
Absolutely.
you're interested.
I mean, companies refer to us not as people, but as consumers.
100%.
Yeah, that's so
That-
true.
Yeah.
Consumption.
Sergeant Mr. C said
Jesus Christ.
Ever
he's gonna punch me right in my face. So no, he says a lot of things on
Emery
it.
won.
He says a lot of things on his Instagram that were like, I feel personally attacked, but it's so true. Like I don't
Like what?
I never. Well, when he's talking about like skinny little punks or like weak people or things like that. Like
That's definitely you.
no, absolutely. Or like and shit like that. Like I love it though. Like I love.
I mean, you're skinny, but I don't think of you as weak
I appreciate that.
at all.
I appreciate. I
Right?
do appreciate, and I don't think of myself as weak, and I do appreciate that. But
you're his skinny little punk friend.
that's exactly right. When he's talking to like his special forces buddies, he's like, "Yeah, I got this skinny little punk friend." That, you know, I let him come
Like,
to the range.
I look at, like, I can't help it sometimes, right? Like, if I got to build my team out, right? Like, right now, I'm like, this dude's awesome on a motorcycle. He's clearly a reconnaissance guy, right? Like, duh. And reconnaissance guys don't need to be big and jacked. That's what assaulters do. They're the
Got
big
it.
jack dudes.
There you go.
Reconnaissance dudes need to be the endurance guys who can, So, to me, weak and frail is more of a mental thing, right? I
Agreed.
talk about being strong, like, and resilient. There's no doubt in my mind, right? You're resilient, from riding that motorcycle and get crashed and smashed and scuffed up your whole life doing that. That's a toughness that's can't be developed in the gym, right? Like, we're talking the Idaho guys, the guys who picked up and left them in Idaho were gym strong. You know what I mean? They were tough guys in the gym. They can punch bags in the gym, but mountains kick them right in the dick, send them home.
Leave them by themselves
Yeah.
overnight, and you'll see what kind of people
exactly.
they are.
Understood.
Yeah. So no, when I mean, you're skinny, but that's
I-
I don't hold that against you, right? I see that as an asset. That's a good thing, right? Like
I
I
prefer it. No, I
Yeah.
absolutely prefer it. But he says a lot of things about like what you were just talking about with the weak male. Like he makes a lot of references to the weak male, and I do. Unfortunately, through introspection, I'm always questioning myself. Like a lot of times, if I ever have a moment of weakness, or like my hip hurts some days because there's 3 big bolts holding it together, right? So I'm like, am I a weak male now because of things that I've done that have worn myself down? But I certainly, in the greater scheme of things, I don't think I'm necessarily what he's talking about. But what he is talking about is a real problem. And the toxic masculinity things that he brings up and that sort of thing. I do question though if we are the majority and that the media is forcing so much of the minority in our faces that we think it's the majority, or that we think it's how a lot of people feel or whatever. Like if you scroll through your Instagram or your, recently Tila and I got into the TikTok thing because so many people wanted us to do a TikTok of just everyday random stuff that we're doing, burnouts or whatever. They banned us because apparently burnouts are dangerous or whatever. So we had to go a different route. But it's another part of what he's saying. Like
Burnouts are dangerous. That's kind of your point of the whole weaknesses, right? And it's like, because burnouts were that's just part of rubber tire vehicles, right?
Correct. I thought so, but it just it really, a lot of things that he says, if you don't follow his Instagram, he's very masculine male, but if you like, there's so many things that he said to me at the range. Like I had a MP5 and he made a comment about like sub guns and shooting 9mm rounds. And if you're going to hold something that's that big, why wouldn't you just shoot a rifle or shoot a rifle round or something along those lines? I can't remember exactly
I don't want
what
a pistol
was.
round in my rifle.
That's what it was. Absolutely right. And at the time, I was like,
and I'm old enough to remember when we got rid of the MP5s.
Really?
They've got a new resurgency, right? That's an interesting thing. I think a lot of these young guys that talk shit on Instagram, to me, they don't realize is that I have seen so many things change.
Right.
And it would be ridiculous to call me like some old fud or whatever. All you gotta do is go shoot long range with me, and you'll see that I am very much on the most modern things or whatever. I wouldn't be alive today if I wasn't able to adapt, right? So it's always kind of funny, but I have seen all these things change, and the reality was, the MP5 was awesome in its time.
Right. 70 years ago, I think. Came out in like 1950s or 60s.
In the 50s. The design's that old, right? and the reality is, pistol rounds, it's funny because guys know that pistols are pretty weak. So why would I voluntarily carry a rifle that shoots a pistol round? Right?
Him saying that at the time, I like let it bounce off of me as like him being funny and kind of poking at me at the range. And then as I've developed more, I've basically he's right, because I've been able to literally be almost as effective, even up to like 100 meters with a handgun, as I am with that stupid little sub gun. Like it's a strange thing, but like if you take those kind of words like that and don't let yourself get butthurt about it and be a millennial, and you use that to grow. Like that's another time where he said something to me that at the time I kind of blew it off, but I let it stew and I let it fester, and over time developed my handgun skills to the point where I didn't really need the sub gun thing anymore. Now I go straight from handgun. If there's something more than 100 meters, then you go to a rifle round.
The gun
you do rifle
world is
things.
so weird because, right, like I come from the practical background of it, right? You give me a gun, it is a tool that I need to use for a pretty specific purpose. And then, but the gun community in America is a lot of fun.
It's true.
Right? A lot of guys are doing
sport
it for
shooting.
Fun. And if you tell me I have an MP5 because it's fun to shoot, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, cool. Whatever. Yeah.
Which is what I was about to say to you. So I get your point about putting a pistol round in a rifle. It makes 100% sense. I have an MP5, a Chris Vector. I didn't buy them for combat.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Vectors are fun, too.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't buy them for combat. I didn't buy them for home protection. I bought them because it's fun to shoot. And my kids like to shoot.
And I always tell guys this, right? Like, here is my take on things. It is based off of experience. I've shot a lot of living creatures, animals, and the two-legged kind, right? And that's... So I've seen what happens in terminal ballistics, right? What happens when the bullet hits its target. And, so I've seen what happened with pistol rounds. I've seen what happens with rifle rounds. And the reality is I've seen dudes run off after getting smacked by a 300 Win Mag. So shot placement, right? However, energy is energy. And you've got more room for error with that rifle round.
Right.
Ultimately, if you choose a 22 long rifle as your home defense weapon, I don't care. Right? Like, I don't give a shit. You're not defending my home.
Right.
And I always say that, the internet is missing the team sergeant, right? On an ODA, a special forces team, there's supposed to be 12 guys, typically 10, right?
Why?
And
wait, what's an ODA?
18. A special forces team.
Okay.
Right? So like a SEAL platoon has 16 dudes, right?
Bro,
Like it's not random, right? It's not a random thing, right? The MTONE, in other words, the what is funded and what is on paper, what we're supposed to be per doctrine, is a special forces team is 12 guys, right? And there's a certain amount of the 2 MOSs, right? You got 2 commo guys, you got 2 explosive engineer guys, you got 2 medics, 2, right? And you have a team sergeant. So I always joke that on a special forces ODA, you got 12 guys. There will be 16 opinions, all of them worth fist fighting over, right? You guys probably see it in fire, right?
Yeah.
No doubt.
Right? So the difference is with the internet, there is no team sergeant that says, okay, this is what we're doing. There's a boss, like let's sit around the table and talk. We'll talk about some courses of action. See, we're professionals. So if you send me out on a sniper recce operation, I'm not taking an MP5 unless it's like my backup to my sniper rifle. I'm not going on a sniper mission with what I think might be a cool gun, I'm going on the operation with the gun and the optics that fit the mission.
Uh-huh.
So if I know I'm covering an assault force and there's 4 buildings on this target and I'm only 200 meters away across the street, well, I'm probably going to take that SR-25. But you put me in the open desert or long range shooting in Afghanistan, well, I'm probably going to take my Bolt 300 Win Mag, you know? And that's the difference in the gun community, that it's fun versus us who literally use them as tools. And it would be no different than, like, you can argue all day long which motocross bike color is the best. And then you look at the champion, right?
Right.
You know?
Win on Sunday,
And the
sell on Monday.
reality is Ricky Carmichael, or now Cooper Webb, have won on different colored bikes. And you know, that's where we come from, is that I don't care what tool you give me, I'm going to make it work.
That's
you know what I mean?
one of the best things I ever heard him say was, you are the weapon, these guns are tools.
Yeah.
You have to figure out how to make yourself efficient enough to wear whatever you have. It's weird how I remember so many random things that he said. Like, I don't even know if he realizes that he's saying, like, he's just spouting shit off, and sometimes something will stick, but it's so important. It's so important. That's why I'm telling you.
Because
stay
of
out
my
politics.
TBI, my short-term memory is it's actually improved, man. Like I said, I've done some kind of a couple of different things in the last since the end of the election, since June, that has improved.
He really doesn't even remember meeting me, but I mean,
so it's always funny when guys are like, "So you know, we were having this conversation." I'm like, "Really? Tell me about it. Tell me what I said." Yeah, you know, it's like, yeah, you know.
So speaking on the method of kind of self-reflection of what he said, and then you making some improvements. The end of the year's coming, right? We're what, days away now? Do any of y'all have any paradigm shifting goals for 2023?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up.
Yeah.
Interested to hear it.
Like,
Yeah. I want to know.
Out of this world.
Tell me the
wild.
secret.
You know, once you put it right here, you know, it's going to be on the internet.
That's it.
Here in a few days. So you're.
I've already started.
Yeah,
I've already put the wheels in motion.
I'm
so
good with that.
I had a lot of heart issues in 2022.
Heart
issues. So remember last time I was eating that sweet potato. I've been eating sweet potatoes because of my cholesterol, right? My heart issues weren't from cholesterol. They were from a plate that was too full. It's been too full for years and years. It's too many things. Not full of food, full of too many things. I've got my hands in too many things. And I worry too much about everything, right? So when I've got this many things going on, I just started that charity not too long ago. So now I'm constantly thinking,
that thinker guy.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but fundraising is extremely difficult, especially on a local level. Like if you have a small charity that you're trying to do great things in the community with, nobody gives a shit about your charity because they know St. Jude, or they know the Cancer Foundation, or they know the so, you know, things like that they come up, and you're constantly stewing on, how do I not fail? Right? As a man, you're like, I have to make sure that all these things that I'm doing now, I'm successful in all these things. My heart was just giving out. Like my heart beating all weird. I've got this weird like sporadic heart rate now. That's just a thing. It's just part of my life. Blood pressure was just crazy every time I would go to the doctor and try to get this under control. So I started paying attention to my sleep and my rest and doing less. And I hate to even say that because I am such a doing like go, go, go. But my heart is like, hey, man, if you're going to go, you at least have to worry less, you know, about all these things that you're doing. So in 2023, I'm definitely doing less things, even if it affects my wallet, which it will. So I have to live slightly more simple. So something's got to go. The Challenger's got to go, or the van's got to go.
At least less burnout.
At least less burnout, so I don't have to buy tires all the time, right? But no, you're right. I have to do some less things and get this heart thing under control, because if I'm dead, I can't help anyone. Right. Like I have to figure this out. And I did absolutely start pinpointing it to rest. So I can't drink caffeine after like 5 anymore because I'm too fucking wound up. Right. I can't. That's one of the things about being skinny is that shit happens. You know, you can't do it, you know? So I don't, you know, little things like that. So I sleep better and I get a deeper sleep and I try to recuperate more, and hopefully I can get it back under control. That's 2023. What you got, Mr. C? Mr. Sergeant C?
Tony.
Sorry, Tony.
I'm trying to make me better, and not like in a selfish way. like even when I owned the gym in the service, I've always been a guy that was just trying to help others, and to the detriment of myself, my own health, and my own relationship. As important as it is to me, the reality is I have put a ton of extra stress on my relationship and therefore on Melissa, right?
Same.
And so my thing is I'm trying to shift some of that back inwards to make us better, to make me better, focus on some of my own health. While I am, I eat super healthy, I quit drinking almost 12 years ago. On the outside, if you just look at, what I do as far as physical fitness and eating well, I look like I'm healthy, right? But the reality is some of the things I've done for physical fitness definitely exceeded healthy. 200-mile ultra marathons, and the reality is I have, through the help of a counselor, freaking a very, very smart guy, who has helped a lot of people like me, not just soft guys, but just this type of personality, come to the conclusion that, hey, man, if you're not taking care of you, just like you just said, how can you take care of others? And so I finally made the decision, and I always tell people, adults make decisions and then execute. Everything, is it motivation or discipline? Yeah, I don't care. That's a stupid argument to me. We're always talking about that, right? Like, all these motivational speakers are always talking about motivation and discipline, right? Jocko's thing is discipline, and then I don't care. It's decisions. So when I make a decision, I will execute. So I have finally made a decision to help make me better. And that started with the hyperbaric chamber, oxygen therapy, hyperbaric chamber for TBI. And that led me to some other things. Frankly, I did a treatment outside of the U.S. for my TBI that's not legal in the U.S. An amazing thing that offline I'll be happy to tell you about it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear all about your
amazing stuff, right? Amazing stuff that, like, man, the headache that I had since 2009 is gone, bro. I haven't put my keys in the refrigerator since. Short-term memory improved exponentially. This is just stuff that, it sucks because it's not legal in the United States. And you're talking about, things that are helping TBI, or, TBI parallels PTSD. And, clearly I try to help, my brothers in arms and anyone who's suffering bad enough that they would consider, suicide. So anyway, yeah, man, that's a big thing with me, is just trying to take a minute and focus on making me more healthy. And man, I've been lucky because I don't suffer, quote unquote, from PTSD, right? I don't have any debilitating moments, but I have come to some conclusions that I don't suffer from any type of PTSD, like regret or guilt from hurting others, right? At any given time, we were just two dudes on a battlefield fighting for what we thought was right.
Like a basketball game.
Exactly.
What you were thinking.
And so, in many cases I won, in some cases I ran, but I'm still here. What I have come to the conclusion was that I was not dealing with survivor's guilt. Like when I got blown up, 3 of my brothers were killed. Instead of ever dealing with that, I tried to get healthy as fast as possible, get back over there to find the people responsible, right? And while that might have made me feel better at the time, it didn't make me better. Here we are, freaking 13 years later, almost 14 years later. It didn't make me better. So I'm going to focus on dealing with some of that stuff so I can help others deal with it. Because if I'm more healthy and I'm more clear and I'm more at peace, then I'll be able to love better. And that's what helping others has to come from. It has to come from a place of love and compassion, not anywhere else. And now that I've come to these conclusions, and like I said, luckily, the guy that has been helping me, a fellow named Andrew, man, he's just opened my eyes to stuff. And it's also funny because, like, that stigma of getting a counselor, you know, that stigma of seeking help in the man community, right? Like, I'm the manly man and all this stuff, right? You know what? Hey, the reality is we now are dealing with far more stress than our ancestors, than our fathers, than our grandfathers, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and let's face it, man, the World War II vets, the Vietnam vets, man, they had to just suck it up. I hate it for them now. Looking back on them, I'm like, wow, you know, I wish I could go back and give, you know, every World War II combat veteran, you know, a hug, you know, and tell them that we love and appreciate what they did for us. But sadly, there are not many of them left. So, you know, there's that component, right? That's my thing. I want to be able to be better so I can and so I can love better. And that clearly, you know, is my focus is Melissa first, and then anyone and everyone that I could touch with some of that, you know, and that's what I kind of hinted at earlier with the shift in my social media. And you know, I do come from a place sometimes of tough love.
It's okay.
But it's the only way I know how to talk,
It's
right?
good.
Like,
It's okay.
you know, hey son, come here. You know,
It's okay.
hey, you know, sit down. We need to have a chat. You know, get off of your ass, pull your pants up, right? Put your big boy britches on. We got things to take care of, right? That's just how I talk.
It's okay.
And then, you know, the other thing is, man, yeah, we you know, freaking going to build a house.
That's what's up.
And
So,
you know, I grew up
tough.
framing, and you know, the wood part. I'm not messing with the electric, the plumbing. I'll hang any rock that we decide with, right? But I'm not finishing rock. And
Like,
so I either one or two things is going to happen, right? Is through this whole process and me trying to be a better person and stuff. Either Melissa is going to have an awesome new house all to herself. But luckily, you know, we've got the other one. You know, we're going to still have the other one. I'm just going to have to Airbnb it from her because that's our intent. But yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to building that new house. Like, to me, that's cool. My dad built our house. My uncle built his house. I was young and kind of, you know, walked around and threw away scrap wood because I was like, you know, 3 and 5, I think. But then I grew up framing with this guy, Billy Holt, and he taught me a lot. So I'm looking forward to that, you know, like being able to step back and be like, we built that.
Yeah.
You know?
That's
And
cool, man.
Yeah, that's a big,
You know?
big
Good
thing.
stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Chris?
Mr. B.
So,
Uh-oh.
yeah. So since about 2 years into this whole business venture, I've been by myself. I mean, I've had employees, but I have been just like you said, the T-shirt mailer,
everything.
and I take a lot of pride in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also realize what it does.
It's tough.
So I got to try to learn to trust other people to help with this. You know, like
Good luck.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, well,
Bro.
and you know how I am. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
but that is my thing for this year. So Kim and I talked in this year when a business / job opportunity came up that didn't work out, and I told her, you know, my plan B is it's time to expand. You know, now move on to the next phase and grow till I can grow out of it and get something out of it. So it's got to start sometime. So that's kind of what my goal is. And my goal is to bring somebody else on that I can trust and that I can teach and feel like they're doing you guys as good a job as I hope you feel like I do, and be okay with it, which in turn does one of the best things I think of is it will better my marriage life and, you know, my children. Like my kids are growing up and leaving. I mean, I got 2 in college, 1 out of college, 3 still left that are I got 6 kids.
I was like,
that are
I'm gonna take my boots off. Holy shit!
that are
I got him a Netflix account for Christmas. He needs something else to do.
yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
That, you know, that are stair stepping, graduating from high school. But you know, I hate to use the word "make you a better dad." I don't feel like I'm a bad dad, but you know, there are those kind of things. A little bit of stress relief off of what I'm doing. Don't get me wrong. You probably won't find many people in America that love their job as much as me. He knows. In 20 years, I can count probably on both of these hands without being deathly sick the times I miss work.
Yeah,
I just
same
love
here.
it. I get it.
I think we're in the same boat.
I
Man.
love
That's
it.
pretty awesome. Yeah,
and it's
I love that.
not just it's not what I do, which I love what I do. I can't think of anything else I'd rather do, but it's these people that I'm working with
No, I
every
get
day that I really get. So I don't want to get rid of that, but I am 47. I do have to plan for the next, maybe 20 years of working time that I may have left. So if I don't do something now, and I talk about it, I've talked about it for several years, and this is the time. So that's what I want to do to move on forward is I want to grow that way.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I do that, it'll accomplish several other goals that I really have, as far as, having more time family wise, having more things like that. So that's kind of my thing for.
I'll tell you, man, I might just be a few months ahead of you. I'm so lucky. I've got this young man, Dustin, who's former Ranger. When he left Ranger Regiment, he was a Ranger sniper platoon sergeant, and he kind of just fell into, helping me. Yeah. And now it's just like I can trust him to teach classes in my absence and take clients in my absence for the first time. Yeah, he's a great guy, man. And
that's not even lucky. That is fortunate.
That's right.
That
is good fortune.
And because on the teams, I could tell guys to do stuff and count on them. It's their job. They're professionals, right? They're that type of guys, right? But out here in the civilian world, to develop that, to find that person and develop that. And I've been able to do it a couple of times, like with the gym. I had a couple of folks that I developed into that role. Mm-hmm. And, let's face it, people who work and run gyms are typically young and they move on and get real jobs. So all I can say is to you is like, hey man, it is worth it to do it. I know it can be tough to relinquish that trust and all that,
it's hard for me.
I know.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm the same way.
If I screw up with anything that happens, it's my fault.
Yeah. I get it.
If somebody that works for me screws up, it's still my fault. But it's hard for me to feel like it's my fault.
Well,
I can look at Matt and be like, I didn't do that. He did that.
That's right.
But
it's still on you.
Right.
But the Ranger Handbook, right? The Bible for the freaking ground pounding knuckle dragger soldier, right? First page of chapter 1 says the leader is responsible for everything that does and does not happen.
That's right. That's it.
Yeah, so it's tough being that leader in your own business. It sounds like we're very, very parallel, very similar in our two businesses. That to grow, you're going to have to relinquish some of that trust, and it's like you're kind of forced, right? You're kind of forced at this point at 47 years old, and
20 years into doing it. So that's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, I'm 20 years in, almost 20 years into doing this, and don't get me wrong, it's been one hell of a ride and a great experience, and even more, it's been a really good living for me. A good living. I'm able to provide stuff for my kids and my family that I don't think I would have if I did anything else that I would enjoy.
6 of them.
Yeah. That's a lot of money.
We have 5 dogs and they're really expensive. I couldn't imagine about kids.
But it's just it's time to think about it a little bit different.
For sure.
Like you said, by doing what you're going to do, what you need to do for yourself, it's gonna hit your pocketbook, and this will. Originally, at the beginning, it should not hit it after it starts working,
because it should be an investment.
That's exactly right. It's kind of like this is kind of a crazy scenario or comparison, but you'll get it. I think I told you guys. I told you this. I know. So when I first started this business, one of the things that my dad told me was, he said, if you're in the business of going to people to fix their stuff, it should not cost you to go to them. And so I'm like, okay, what do you mean? He's like, well, you got to have a truck to get there, right? Yeah. And if you drive 2 hours, that's 2 hours out of your day to get there. They should pay for that, And it took me a little bit to understand that, but now I'm at the point where I really, really get that. He's exactly right. It is a a benefit for them for you to be able to come out,
Right.
not for me.
Right.
So I have to think about that with putting another person on.
Mm-hmm.
Or multiple
Yeah.
people. I mean, it's the business is there,
Right.
but that's a benefit not just to me, but to everybody else, because I'm only one person.
Mhm.
It's hard to handle everything I have going on.
If you groom that new employee to be as good as you,
Yeah.
and you grow them,
Oh,
that's an investment.
groom him to be better than me.
Right.
That's my
Yeah,
thing
right.
about it. That's what I want to do.
Now your business is capable of doing double,
Yeah.
potentially double, even more than that, because now there's two people handling the menial tasks, right?
right.
Like sweeping the garage floor or whatever it is.
That's
you know
right.
what I
Yeah,
mean? The
yeah.
menial stuff. Yeah, for sure, man. Freaking. But it is. It can be daunting and hard, to relinquish that trust and groom that person, And like with me, it's always been, before Dustin, I had this young fellow, Mark. And luckily, Mark is at Fort Bragg, and he still comes and helps with stuff, And I would have loved to kept him, helping me, but I don't pay millions, and he's got dreams. And right now, he is waiting to start the Special Forces school because, how would I have ever tried to talk him into staying with me to not go chase his dream of becoming that
Right.
Green Beret soft soldier guy, and so now I finally. Was lucky enough to get Dustin, who has already done that stuff, and he likes what we do as his side job. It's like, holy crap!
Yeah.
Finally, I'm fortunate enough to have the universe provide me with exactly the guy I needed.
And this is a couple years in the making too. I've watched a lot of guys kind of come and go where you've been trying to figure this out. So certainly, if your first one, is
hopefully
not,
your first one you
That's
choose
right.
better than I have.
I've seen a lot of guys.
So the weird thing about that is I was just sitting here thinking about this, and it's a little bit hard for me to say this out there, but it's the truth, and I wouldn't hide it from anybody. But so there's not many people that do what I do.
Uh-huh.
There's just not. There are tons of truck mechanics. You can drive to any dealership, and there'll be 15 or 20 of them in their shop. They're not fire truck mechanics. There's not that many of us. So
I before meeting you, I'd never thought about that.
Same.
Right? Like I just don't know.
it's not
your industry.
Yeah, it's a different
Like
thing.
holy crap! Yeah, it makes sense. Such a
It
specialized
is
vehicle.
100%
Yeah.
specialized.
Yeah.
And so out of the people in my realm that I know and deal with, one of them worked for me for 7 or 8 years, and he works for someone else now, but a dealership, somebody can give him different than I can. Another one is one of the best friends I have in the world that did the same thing that I do. He doesn't do it now, but he did. Now he's teaching, doing this kind of thing. Another one is just as a guy that I have known for the last 10 or 15 that works on fire trucks. And then the last one is probably the best friend that I have. And he's in a position where he doesn't work on fire trucks, but he has to deal with fire trucks every day. I will not be 100% satisfied until they all work for me and we do this together. Because I can tell you, with that group of 5 people, it would be unbelievable. I honestly think that he knows every one of them, and he could probably tell you the same thing. Like, that's the goal.
That's
2023.
Awesome. That's awesome.
It's the that's the thing. Like I want to be the best at what I do, and I want the company that I own to be the best at what it does. And there's no doubt in my mind if that could ever happen, that that's exactly what it would
You
be.
need those guys.
It sounds to me like your goal is, it's not necessarily for you to be the best that you can be, because I think you're probably at the pinnacle. I mean, already. I'm not trying to toot your own horn here or anything, but you want to house, you want your name, your brand to be the one all be all.
Yeah,
That's a hell of a goal. That's great.
yeah.
I think it's wonderful.
It's a big
It's
deal,
doable.
and it's not.
Definitely doable.
It's not anything 100% not anything to do with any kind of recognition. That's not it for me. you know, like you said, I'm not a horn tooter. I don't tell people anything about how I feel about myself, but to house that group of people under one roof, so to speak, and I mean, there's a lot of years of knowledge of just this in that group of people. And in my opinion, those people that I'm talking about, myself excluded, are the best at this job.
Bringing them all under one roof means bringing the most knowledgeable people into one team.
Right now.
Because all of these people
have
work experiences that you don't.
Yeah. All of these people work for either competitors of mine or someone that I work for. We talk every day. All of us. Every day we talk. One calls another because they might not get something or understand something. One of the five of us can answer that question.
Right. Yeah.
Never do we come outside that group of people that we cannot answer that question. Yeah. So I started thinking about that a few years ago, and I'm like, if I don't call anybody outside of my circle, then those people need to be in the circle, the same circle that I'm in that's doing the same thing.
Right.
Then other people will call us.
Right.
You know, and I don't know, if you have to have a goal, I set goals from day one. You know, when I first started, I set a goal. I said, okay, in this amount of time, I want to accomplish this. And I did it in half the time I'd set the goal for. So I'm like, okay, instead of setting that goal for 3 years, you need to set it for 10. You know, you need to set one and say, make it big enough that it needs to be 10 years. And then in 5 years, I had accomplished that goal.
Right.
And so now, like, that's the goal. The goal is to house those people in that one spot and be the
umbrella.
Yes, that everybody else that does this kind of work, they're like, these are the people you need to call if you need to know to answer this
subject
question.
matter experts.
Yeah.
SMEs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's it. That's the start of 2023.
That's pretty amazing.
Dig it.
Yeah, I dig it for sure.
Mr. Steve, what are you doing in 2023?
Man, I'm pretty inspired by that last one. Goodness gracious.
Right.
Where do we go from here?
Sorry.
Yeah. I've been working on mine. It's still a work in progress, but I want to slow down to speed up, if that makes sense. I feel like
I get it.
When you were talking about yours, like you're trying to take away some things. I don't necessarily want to take away anything. I just want to do the things I'm doing slower. So sometimes I feel like I'm like balancing too many things, and I don't. There's no barbed wire around me, so I don't know what I'm worried about. So I just need to take away that feeling that I've got to do all these little things in a certain time frame. I just need to slow down, just back it down a little bit.
When you figure that out, I just give me a call.
Okay.
I'm the worst. I am the worst, man. I'm like, I would just pile things up. That is part of what I was talking about becoming better and healthier, man. The stresses that I have in my life, I create them all.
Same.
Every single one of them.
Same.
I had a crew chief tell me once, he was trying to get me to slow down on the racetrack. He was like, if you'll slow down, you'll speed up. Your car will be faster if you'll just back off a little bit. And he was right.
Yep.
Mr. Hoffman,
Ooh,
2023.
dude, I don't know how to follow up any of these.
We got 4 now.
I feel like none of mine make any sense or even matter anymore.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't know. I've got young kids. I've got an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. 8-year-old boy, 4-year-old little girl. Obviously, I want my 8-year-old boy to be the best baseball player on planet Earth.
Amen.
So that's definitely a goal. Now, and all jokes aside, first and foremost, I feel like I'm going around the dinner table at Thanksgiving with my family. It's a tradition we all do. We all
What are
say
you
we're
thankful for?
Yeah, it's a tradition we've done since I can remember. But now, growing my relationship with my wife is always at the forefront of my mind. That's always my number one goal, because without her, none of this at all would be possible. The podcast, my job, my career, my hobbies, none of that. She's always number one. So, so growing my relationship with her, I've got some things that I can work on personally, relationship wise. Communication, obviously. I'm a man, right? Yeah. So everybody laughs because they're like, "Yep."
God tells me that at least 3 times a week.
And what you're saying is, what you want to get her to be able to communicate better, right?
Yeah, that's it. She needs to do that.
No, man, that's
No.
a conversation we have all the time.
Yeah, for real. So being a better communicator with her, number one for sure. Trying to provide the best that I can for my family is always number 2, and then obviously being a better fireman, being more in depth in my industry. I told Captain Turner the other day, I said, I'm not one for setting goals for New Year's because I think that's kind of a setup for failure. Because just like you, I was big in the gym industry, big in the CrossFit world, just like you were. So I've watched every January the newcomers come in, you get an influx of members, and you're like, hell yeah, we're doing it. And by February 1st, they're all gone.
New year, new me.
Yeah.
No, bro, you're still
So
you.
I lost kind of my hope in setting unrealistic goals. But I told Captain Turner the other day, I was like, I said, in 2023, I'm going to be the most involved and productive New Hanover County Fire employee that has ever lived. I said, I want the administration to fear questioning any decision that I make. Fear it for the fact that I have unquestionable, undeniable reasoning for every single decision that I make. Where it's like, if he says it, it's gold. Because if I go against it, he's gonna whoop my ass. You know what I'm saying? Not physically, obviously, but
right.
he's.
See, I'm trying to get the same place that you're trying to get with New Hanover Fire with Melissa. I want her to not question a word I say, right? Like it's just undeniable.
Bro,
you
you're
know?
fighting.
Yes.
You are fighting a fight there that's not realistic.
Yeah, not a realistic goal. New year, new me.
Yeah. So,
I love it.
So that's one of them, and then 2, this show, man. I want this show to flourish, man, because it's just like tonight. You haven't heard me and Steve talk much at all, and that's an honor for me. I love getting folks like you influential in so many different realms. I mean, you got a fire truck mechanic, an ex. No, is it okay to say ex? But anyway, you got
he's still
whatever.
Yeah.
American badass.
I still dabble.
Yeah, an Army
badass.
Special Forces guy who's been all over the globe fighting battles. Tesla driver.
Like,
out of everything he does, the only
how do
thing
you
can
even
say was
describe this
Tesla
guy? How do you even describe this
Dane
guy?
may be the most influential human being I've ever met inside of New Hanover County, and that is hands down. If somebody in New Hanover County doesn't know who Dane Britt is, then it's their own fault. And that's, what you have accomplished to be able to spread the message of positivity throughout the school system in New Hanover County and other counties is absolutely freaking remarkable. And your relentless battle against school boards, against parents, against everything else is incredibly, incredibly empowering to everybody who can hear your voice, whether it be online, whether it be on this show, whether it be wherever. If they ever talk to you in conversation, it's incredibly empowering. And this platform has helped spread that voice.
Yeah.
And it doesn't involve my voice, it doesn't involve Steve's voice, but it's here and it's what I can do behind the scenes to make that a reality.
Yeah, for sure.
And
You know, it's funny. I don't remember exactly how we met, but I remember like my initial like looking at his Instagram and looking at him, and I was like, "Who is this wacko?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Freaking, and I'm like, but then of course, like I scroll up, I watch this dude doing all kinds of cool stuff on dirt bikes. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I meet him, and I'm like, I remember telling my buddy Chris King, and because I'd asked Chris if he knew you, and he's like, no, I don't really know him or whatever, and I'm like, okay. And then I meet him and I'm like, holy crap, man. That might be the nicest dude I've ever met.
Right.
Might absolutely be one of the, and now having known you, 3 years probably?
Yeah.
And sadly, this last year, we haven't interacted much at all. And we should fix that in 23.
We will.
We'll add that to the goal. and 3 years later, I'm like, no, seriously, he is one of the absolute nicest people I've ever met. And it's amazing, always looking for the positive, always looking
No
for the
doubt.
positive.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that I had upset him about picking on his sub gun. You know? And, you know, I had no idea. I just say things, and I don't always understand that there are tertiary effects of things I say.
Yeah, so I mean, the growth of this show is going to be a massive part of my 2023 for sure. I want to do if it involves sacrifice with my family, if it involves financial sacrifice more than we've already made. Jesus Christ, how many patriot spittles unto?
Yeah.
Anyway, but.
I don't speak French.
That's right.
It's the ability to provide a platform where I get to walk the streets and I get to bump into people and say, hey, I really enjoy your show. I enjoyed this episode with Chris Blanchard, Tony Cowden, Dane, Britt, whatever, whoever it may be. And it has nothing to do with me other than the fact that I have a studio. We have a studio. We work together. We work behind the scenes relentlessly to make all this come to fruition. And that's what it's about. I don't have to be the guy in spotlight. I don't want to be in this guy in spotlight. That terrifies me, as a matter of fact. We talked about this up there with Sam at Hivius. I'm terrified of what that looks like in my life, to be any shape recognizable to any human being. But I want this show. I want this show to be something really special that folks may listen to and may pick out something that can change the trajectory of their life and a decision they may make. Yeah. Or anything. I mean, it can be anything. All you guys and all of our guests that we've ever had have had some sort of something that they can say that can resonate with any human being on planet Earth. And it just takes one person to listen, and then it can switch their life from negative to positive. It can be something with the school system, something that you said with politics and being active. It could be anything. The life conversations that we've had down here. Jesus Christ, Chris. I mean, we've sat down here with Chris. We've had 6-hour conversations that I had to air 3 different episodes.
Saw that.
That's a 6.5-hour conversation. We sat down here doing just this right here. Yeah. To be sure, there's something that somebody can pick up that can change something about their life, that they can now make a better family, a better family decision, whatever it may be. I mean, that's what I want, and I want it to become so available that it becomes, in our industry, the fire industry, because it is a niche, just like what you're talking about with being specialized, that a firefighter or a paramedic or a policeman or anybody they can come across. But I want it to be so accessible. I don't want to have 100,000 followers on the Instagram because I want people to know my name. I want it so they can hear your voice. That's what I want.
That's cool.
And I'm going to bust my ass in 2023 to create that for people.
Well, I would say, just because what you just said, 6 hours, I mean, we're looking at almost 3 now, and it feels like we've been here for 30 minutes. So I think that's probably a great indicator that you guys are doing a cool job, man. It's I know when I was on with you, I'm not even sure how long we chatted, but it got pretty late. It was a long conversation, but it was a chill conversation. And Lord knows we need more of that.
Yeah.
Amen,
conversation, communication, and discussion. A little less arguing and bitching,
I'll tell you my take on the whole thing. I've watched every episode that you've done or we've done. And the one thing I can honestly say, that even if it was something that I didn't understand or something that I wasn't interested in, whether it was saving dogs or whatever.
Yeah, we've had it all, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that I can tell you that I feel like I got out of it, and I hope everybody else got out of it, is to be a better human.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we're doing something right. Yeah, we get picked on a lot.
Who's picking on you? You tell me.
Well,
I'll tell Uncle.
Give me a name. Give me a name.
But when I ask other people in our industry, how can we grow our platform? And they're like, you need to find your niche and you need to grind. Just grind.
Yeah, y'all are doing it.
Well,
y'all are doing it.
We don't have a damn niche. I mean, we don't have that. Yeah, we are firemen for sure, but you're not, and you're not, and you are. But you're not in it, and it's different. So, I mean, we're not talking about strategies and tactics about stretching hose lines and putting fires out every episode. There's tons of that out there.
That might be your niche, right?
It might be.
So, do you know Sean Ryan?
Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, one of my favorite
So
podcasts.
I was just talking to Sean, and
Are
I
you
told
going on
him
this show?
maybe.
If you
The
can't
cool thing
tell
about
tell him I'm pissed that he chose Travis House to be the fireman that he chose. I'm kidding. I'm not pissed. I'm jealous, is what I am.
Yeah.
well, if when I go on his show, I'll see if
Bring
I
me them damn gummy
can't I've got. Oh, never mind. No, I don't. I do not have any type of gummy bears. Freaking. But no, not with me. Freaking. I am still working and not participating in that kind of stuff. Anyway, I think that's what's cool about Sean's show is that he doesn't just bring on the super trooper soft guys, right? He's bringing on all kinds of different people. And that's what I was telling him I thought was so awesome about his podcast and why I thought it was interesting is because it's not the same old tough guy, special operation, Navy SEAL, blah, blah, right? Like, I'm not interested in that, right? Like, I don't want to, like when I was on with Jocko, I was joking. I was like, I've never read your book. And he was like, why would you? Like, right? Like, I'm not interested in listening to war stories by other dudes just like me. I want to hear about, like, when we were talking, when I was on, and you guys were talking about your insurance issues and just how the stuff gets coded into your clothing and your gear. And I was like, dude, I just wanted to listen about that stuff. I didn't want to talk at all. I was like, that stuff's amazing. I want to know about working on fire trucks.
Right.
It's interesting. I don't want to talk about, Navy SEAL stuff.
I think that is you guys.
That's your niche. Yeah.
Is not just putting it out there to just firemen to get something out of. You've had so many different people from all walks of life that's been on here that I feel like I got something out of every episode. Even the ones that I maybe didn't like as much as I did the other ones, I got something out of every one. And you have a larger audience that way.
Everybody at this table has given blood, sweat, and tears in different ways to civil service.
Yes.
Can we agree?
Yeah.
Like
sure.
whether it's your own community or it's the world or it's a community that was overseas, you were helping a community over there. It's all doing the same thing. And when you guys get these people, it helps them connect the dots. That's why I love asking when we're talking about something and then I say, isn't that the way it is in fire world? And you say yes or no, it's a little bit different, but we all have the same goal. We all want to help people. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. We're doing whatever our bodies, whatever our career paths will let us do to help people. So the more people can see that they're not alone, it also helps with a lot of like what he was talking about with kind of finding yourself and trying to make yourself better. Talking to other people or listening to other people
Isn't it
that are
weird
similar.
how so many people these days feel so alone, even though
Yes.
we're so interconnected, but it's not real.
Yep.
It's not real. When I talk to people about, we talk, like the 2A community, it's not a real thing, right? Harrell's, North Carolina is a community. My next door neighbor, Gavin Mattis, and all of my other neighbors, his father, Chris, right? We're a community.
Yeah.
We're a neighborhood. I grew up in a community in a neighborhood. I grew up in a community where, like, if I rode my four-wheeler across the wrong lawn, a neighbor might, give me a spanking. I'm just going to get another one when I get home type of community. And I think as men, we've got to start setting that standard again. Introducing yourself to that neighbor across the street or across the hall in the apartment. I mean, 30-some people just died of lack of electricity in New York. A place that gets cold every year, that snows every year, right? People froze to death in their cars because
nobody was looking out for them.
Nobody's looking out for themselves or each other, and parents aren't teaching their kids, like, hey, I don't know, throw a blanket and a fire starter, and if you do get stuck in the snow, at least hop out and dig out that exhaust pipe so you don't die of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Do something.
It's so. I mean, and it's easy to be like, oh, these people weren't prepared. No, man. We didn't prepare each other. And it's heartbreaking to think that an 18-year-old girl froze to death in her car in America in 2023 in a place that it snows every year, right? That is heartbreaking. Somebody's family is now missing their daughter, their sister, their, whatever she was to all these people. And that, as men, if we don't start helping each other and also setting that standard to help each other, hey, man, our trajectory is going to get steeper and steeper to the ground in this country.
What do we do on a pretty regular basis? We check in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very true.
Not very much
Yeah.
time that goes by that we
That's very
don't
true.
check in. And
Right.
we talked about this one time before, and that's all it's really about. It's just you don't have to say anything but everything good.
All right.
What
What's up,
up?
brother?
Yeah,
what's up?
that's it.
Yeah. You good?
Because
Yeah, man.
I feel like if I get what's up, man, from them, that's my avenue to tell them if there's something bothering me.
Mhm.
But like that person, that 18-year-old girl that died, like where's the people that are just, what's up, girl? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is, man.
Well, it sounds like a collective goal for all of us then for 2023.
Y'all
Just,
best start saying yes sir, no sir when y'all talk to Mr. C too.
Sergeant Slaughter.
let's
Let's just do Tony. Tony is really what I'm called everywhere I go. Well, and some other stuff, but that's not. Yeah.
let's do what we can to help each other. And
sure.
Hopefully
Sure.
that message will spread. We'll use
Yeah.
our platform. Y'all use y'all's, and collectively we'll try to make our community, our neighbors, better people. We'll look out for each other. We're all in a group chat now, so
Yeah.
if you get a random video sent, just it came from me.
Yeah.
It's my way of saying what's up.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you guys spending your time
Yeah,
coming
been
out
great.
here with us.
Thanks for having me again, brother.
Yeah.
Great, man.
Absolutely.
Enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Happy
Steve?
New Year, boys.
Yeah.
yeah,
Happy New Year.
yeah, man.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Happy New Year.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Check it
Cheers.
out.
Oh yeah.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. Do us a favor, slide over to iTunes or Spotify or YouTube. Leave a 5-star review and leave a comment. If you want to support further, share it with somebody. Ask them to like, subscribe, and share it with their friends. If they can benefit from it, we need to spread it out. The more you like and comment, the more visible we are on all these platforms when people are just searching Firefighter Podcast. It'll come up Primary Complete a little bit quicker, and they won't have to dig quite so far to find us. We really appreciate that. Visit the website. It's a pretty good site. It's got all kinds of fun links and stuff. You can also find the shows there on the website as well, and that's www.primarycompletepodcast.com. Thank you all so much for your support. Again, we love you. Thank you for helping us make conversation great again.